Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the D and WhatIf, with another fanfiction. This is the second part of What If Deku Had Chainsaw Man's Quirk. All credits for this video go to their respective authors. So please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The two classes got out of their buses under guidance of Aizawa and 13 and gathered up in front of the towering dome-like structure called USJ. Pretty well the two classes are getting along, as Eraserhead warned, and the exception of Monoma and Bakugo. Rest of the students really started to let know each other. Itsuka and Momo are the main two students who really are the same level of reputation in their respected classes, and the two even respect each other too. Class 1B. In your teacher absence, I'm in charge of you all. Report if either of my class behave rude. And this is USJ, where all of you practice on the basics of being a hero. Rescue practice. 13. Here is your instructor during the training, and listen to her every warnings and instructions before acting. I don't know how Vlad King treats you Class 1B, but disobedience and other unforgivable act is strictly prohibited. Punishments included. Same goes for both classes. Everyone will be treated equally. Aizawa announced, really looking annoyed. Even Class 1B shivered out of fear and they rapidly nodded their heads. Good, now, listen close to what 13 has to say. Aizawa said and stepped back. The space hero stepped forward and Ochako was going crazy seeing the rescue hero. Hello students. Even though you all know me, it's my turn to introduce myself. I am 13. I am a lead rescue operation hero, specializes in different types of rescue missions based on wherever my service needed. I'm the second instructor to take on USJ, and my duty is to provide you future heroes lessons on the basis of being a hero. The main basic, that is, rescue. After all, the main duty of being a hero, that is the #1 priority. Self-defense, combat skills, pain tolerances are important too. But my duty is to lead all of you through many natural disasters and man-made disasters, and show you all the proper way to rescue civilians in need. Any questions? 13 asked. Ma'am, 2 questions. First is, while rescuing, does our quirks matter too? Like there are quirks that may not suitable for such an act. Second, are there any special way of replicating an actual injured individual? Or I've heard of agencies that mainly focuses on ranking rescue heroes as well the actors that play roles of the injured ones. Momo asked out. Both questions came out as a curious one instead of a professional one. 13 nodded, quite happy to hear someone ask such questions. She heard many students brag nonsense in the previous batches. Comparing to that, Momo questions are reasonable. To your first question, sometimes there is a situation that could need more than many plans as well as the actions you are familiar with. I've seen many destructive quirk that can be fatal, such as my own quirk, Black Hole. Quirks are trademarks of being a hero and has to use it wisely unless you want to make situations even worse. To a simple answer, sometimes you need the help of your quirks and sometimes not. Here we'll show you the hidden potential of every quirks. And for the second question, we simply use robots that can be programmed to identically copy the movements and mindset of the hurt people. 13 instructed and the others were impressed with what they heard. The students talked about it while Mina and Izumi were wondering something else. But ma'am, shouldn't All Might be here as well? Mr. Aizawa said he will. Mina blurted out and Aizawa sighed. You shouldn't be concerned, Ashido. All Might probably running late. I'm sure at one point he'll catch up, Aizawa said, and the pink-skinned girl nodded. If the doubts are clear, we should get it through. Follow me. 13 instructed and led them to the entrance. Class 1 is excited while Class 1B have mixed feeling. Out of blue, Vlad King ordered them to get their sorry asses in their new hero outfits and join Class 1 with their rescue exercises. The Vigilante left an impact and Nezu wanted them prepared. Really thoughtful of the Chimera. Wow, our first exercise to become a hero. Izuku would be really happy, Izumi said to herself, but heard by some of the students around her, including Class 1B. Is he your friend? Itsuka asked, and the Class 1 girls froze, confusing Kendo. My brother, actually, Izumi politely replied, and Kendo smiled, nodding at her new friends. I'm sure he will be happy to hear that, Yura said, placing a hand on Ami's shoulder. Aizawa looks at Izumi and remembered what happened to her brother. He's really proud of his student to work really hard to become a hero for her diseased brother. He was lucky to have her, but he never knew. Actually, Izumi is the lucky one to have a great brother. Bakugo heard it all and he looked away from Izumi, can't face her. Ochako saw his reactions and decided to talk about that with Izumi later. Why and how is Bakugo connected with this all? When they reached the open entrance, their mouth fell agape seeing the interior of the USJ. Just like they were told, the interior consists of various terrains of each disasters, flood to landslide. Even there could be seen the big stormy area a bit far to the opposite side of the building, and they look just as real as they should be. by looking at them from the entrance could make them feel what each and every one of the land should be feel like. Now, it's all up to 13 to give you all a great lessons and do as she says. Aizawa reminded calmly this time, and the students nodded and they all heard some weird noises and saw light blinking. But nobody paid much attention to it. The students are all discussing their possible roles on the practice as a purple mist-like portal appeared near a fountain. Kirishima is the only one saw it, and Aizawa noticed his sudden beaming smile as Kirishima nudges Bakugo and Kaminari. Wow, man, they even has fake villains for us, he shouted, attracting everyone else's attention. Aizawa's eyes widened when he heard that, and the atmosphere began to seem freeze as Aizawa slowly turned to look as many local villains jumped out of the portal, and they were still somewhat scared to be there. They heard green flame can be anywhere before anyone knows it. Soon almost 50 villains stood scattered all over the ground, and then out of the portal came out man with many hands all over his body, and his right prosthetic arm twitches uncontrollably. Then came out boy with many burn marks and a smiling girl on his side. Then the main attraction came out of the portal, or better say, an abomination came out of the portal. It was huge and had bird face and exposed brain. It was very bulky and as well as emotionless. Aizawa took a defensive stance. Those are real villains. 13, get them out of here. I'll hold them back, Aizawa said, putting on his goggles. When the students heard that, they started to panic. They weren't prepared for this. But Sir Mina got interrupted as Aizawa pointed at entrance and 13 ushered them to the exit. Please, follow me kids. We should use the time Eraserhead give us. No running off into action, 13 ordered, and Aizawa jumped off the stairs to the middle of the chaos of the villains, dodging many projectiles and landing fierce strikes on the opponents. Using his capture weapon, Aizawa maneuvers around and grab villains and do a combo strikes, and with that time, Class 1A and 1B followed 13 to the exit. Can't we help Mr. Aizawa? 13. Is he gonna be alright? Mina shouted. He's an experienced pro hero. I won't be surprised when he finished them off all at once, 13 yelled back. They were about to reach the exit, but the luck wasn't in their favors today. The mist-like portals surround them all and block their way. Rescue Hero 13. We're League of Villains. Humbly welcomed ourselves to your paradise called USJ. We were expecting many less of you, but was dearly expecting what we're here for. We were told that All Might is one the instructors, training your students. However, may I wonder why he's not here yet? Kurogiri asked. Like I share our matters with you. 13 snapped and looked at the both classes and looked at two students. Kurwaro, Ida, I want you two out of here as fast as you can and get us back up, 13 said, earning a chuckle from the villain. How foolish enough you plan something foolishly when opposing your enemy. That called lack of knowledge on the more hero stuff, Kurogiri comments. The two students looked at each other and nodded. You go class rep. We're counting on you too, Kirishima said, and others encouraged the two more. That's only if I let you past me. You see, my objective is to have all of you lost way out. The rest is up to Shigaraki Tamura, Kurogiri said. Izumi and Ochako looked at Bakugo and Kirishima, as well as a beast man and a lizard boy from Class 1B charged up at the Mist Man. Let's see who wins, Bakugo screamed, creating tiny explosions on his palm. When the four students did attack, 13 yelled at them to come back. However, Kurogiri created a big dome of dark mist around the students and teleported most of the around the USJ. Luckily, 13, Kendo, Uraraka, Sato, Shoji, Ida, Kurwaro, Siro were left behind with Kurogiri. Shoji tackled them out of the way before Kurogiri attacked. What? Where's everyone? All students shouted. Izumi could remember running with others, but in a second she's flying on top the flood zone with a ship on the side. And before even knew it, she's implanting herself straight forward to the cold water, and that is so far down. Even if it's water, this high fall is the most fatal. And times like these, Izumi wished that there was no gravity. Then she was screaming top of her lungs as she descends so fast and couldn't think anything other than gravity. What else she could think? That she'll die in a second. That's totally the least favorite option so far. And that's when it clicked her brain. Gravity, of course. She scolded herself 100 times and reminded herself that she has the psychic quirk, activating her quirk only to glide towards the deck of the ship. If she overused her psychic, it's not a good place to deal with drawbacks. The nausea is annoying and the migraine probably trigger her cursing mode out of pure pain. Just supporting her weight with psychic should do. Being a bloody poodle on the boat if her quirk wasn't hers really is an unpleasant sight to say the least. Izumi was thankful. Spiraling down at a less fast pace, Izumi prepared to roll to a stop the second she lands. Yes, only that much power she's adding to descent from this massive high. She ain't a big fan of heights, neither Izuku was, but adrenaline keep her awake. She did as planned by rolling like a ball as she landed and grunted as the impact knocked on her body. But other than that, her flight was safe. The crappy landing didn't do much to her, other than give her a slight ache. Still, she rolled a bit far and was about to hit the metal wall of the ship deck, and Izumi shut her eyes close. Thankfully, instead of a hard wall, something wet and soft caught her. You okay, Ami, Kiro? Izumi snapped open her eyes and saw her 2 classmates and a 1B student. Sue, oh thank God you guys are fine, Izumi shouted, but looking around the ship, she couldn't see anyone else. What happened? Are everyone safe? We were appeared here a minute ago before you. I don't know about others. Hiro, Sue answered, and Izumi saw another girl behind her 2 classmates, who had both her hands clasped together as if praying. Her eyes calmly closed with a frown on her face. Her hair actually was green vines with thorns. Please, Lord, accept my sacrifices in return of your word that you'll keep all of us safe, she prayed. Izumi blinked twice and remembered her name, Shizaki Aibara. She's a beautiful teenager with hero costume that resembles a one that worn by angels in mythos. Truth to be told, with her look, voice, and that selfless prayer is misleading Izumi to think she's really watching an angel praying for them. The girl elegantly opened her sparkly eyes and gave tiny glimpse of her smile. Believe in God, we'll be safe, she encouraged, but that's when Izumi really paid the attention to her other crying classmate, the one and only great boy, Minta Minoru. The short pervert's eyes are swelling with buckets of tears and he was keep checking at the water while crying. We are dead. They'll kill us. Izumi, Sue, help me. He pathetically cried and hugged Aibara cloth-covered legs and was ruining her perfect hero costume. Aibara calmly stood there praying, but the both girl can see that mind are really bothering her. Izumi looked at the boy both confused and agitated, and Sue wrapped the boy with her tongue and carefully pried him off of the poor girl. Stop crying, Minta. Aren't you supposed to be a hero? To crying out loud. Calm down, Izumi said, losing her temper. Calm down. How can I calm down knowing we're dead so soon in our young life? They'll kill us, Minta shouted and sobbed, pointing down at the blue water. Izumi leaned on the railings and took a peek at the water-powered villains. They are almost 5 to 6 there. 2 of them was mutated into an appearance of a shark and piranha. The rest wore masks or didn't care to hide their faces. But Izumi is the only one caught 2 deep details of the villains. One is, they sometimes looks around scared. The villains are scared. Of who? Of what? The second was the most evident. They aren't attacking. Anybody has a clue why they aren't attacking us? Izumi asked. Do you want them to, stupid? Minta sobbed. The god might have heard my wish, Aibara calmly said. Sue took a look at them and thought about a second. They are hesitant, like they're expecting our first move. Hiro, then it clicked. Izumi. You are right, Sue. By the looks of it, we're here and that means everyone else is inside the USJ too. You are a frog, and they sent you here at the flood zone. That means they aren't aware of our quirks. These guys are waiting for us to attack, so they can know of how to deal with us, Izumi pointed out, and Sue nodded. Correct. If they were to know us and our quirks, they should have teleported me over there. Sue pointed at a burning building in a distance. So, at least we can plan an escape out of this mess. We have time, Izumi said, and the other 2 girls agreed except for a pervy great boy. You lost your mind. We can't run. Just wait till the teachers comes and rescue us, Minta cried. Shut up. We can't wait and hope for the help. Who knows if they even knows where we are? It'll take so long. Who knows if we wait, we lose our chances. Just get a hold of yourself. You're a boy. You should be encouraging us, Izumi shouted back, making the boy flinch. She can be really scary when she gets mad. Ami has a point. If we wait, it might be too late for us. Sue agreed. I am afraid, but I believe in God. I'll accompany you, Aibara said, and the 3 looked at their crying friend. I'm saying, you. Why don't you understand? He mumbled but knew they won't take a no. Okay, start with our quirks so we can plan an escape. Mine is burn and psychic. Burn lets me generate fire out of pores of my body and can go up to over many degrees in temperature. My psychic lets me control or move anything as long as I don't have pushed too much my power, the other 3 explained. Izumi thought hard for a minute. What would Izuku do during the times like these? She then came up with one and told the other 3 to what to do. They nodded, and first comes Sue part. The frog girl wrapped herself and other 2 girls together while holding Minta out with the tip of her tongue. Izumi looks at everyone for the confirmation and then nodded at Aibara. Ready, Aibara? The angel girl nodded and closed her eyes. I'll do anything for us, she said, nodding. Okay, go, Izumi shouted, and Aibara activated her quirk and her vine hair pressed down at the deck, lifting them up. While Aibara lifting them across the water towards the shore, Izumi's duty was to use her psychic around them and help Aibara keep them afloat. They're escaping. Attack them, the villains shouted, swimming under them, just like she wanted them to do. This should be enough to keep them away from them. Now Minta, Izumi shouted, feeling her energy fading slowly, and the migraines of her worries started to disturb her brain. She coughed but held on and used quirk at a controlled phase. Minata shrieked and ripped his ball-like hair and threw them all over the villains and on water, sticking them up together. Izumi used a bit of her power to also push some of the villains to the sticky balls. In the end, her plan worked out great. Aibara soon let them land as gently as she can. The second Sue unwrapped her tongue, Izumi fell to her knees coughing really bad and tears fell down her eyes to her cheeks. Her head was on fire. Ami, are you okay? Hiro. Sue crouched down, placing her palm on Izumi's shoulder. I'll help, Aibara said, showing worries, and helped Izumi to stand up with her vines. That surprisingly didn't hurt even after having thorns all over it. Izumi smiled up at them thankfully and appreciated Aibara and Sue's help. Minta, on the other hand, still in the shallow water, scared out of his mind. He stared at Izumi and other girls, mainly Izumi. Even though they were scared just like him, they never give up. Didn't even cry. So manly, Kirishima would have said. Then they looked up, hearing a small blast, and saw dust clouds rising. They were wide-eyed and remembered what's happening there. Eraserhead was fighting there. Mr. Aizawa. Izumi gasped and stumbled towards the spot. Aibara caught Izumi, seeing her almost fell down. Ami, what are you doing? Sue asked as she stood beside Izumi, who was on her feet, and Aibara vines keeping her balanced. Come on, Mr. Aizawa is in danger. Shu, what are you saying, you stupid? Stupid. What the hell are you doing? We can't go there, Minta desperately shouted, refusing to go with his classmates' plan. We have to, just to look. We won't get in his way, Izumi said. Shigaraki wrapped his right hand around Aizawa's neck and used his left palm to disintegrate Aizawa's elbows, making the hero grunt in pain. Erasehead, calm down. It will be over soon, so cooperate. Your struggles are pointless, Shigaraki said coldly, and Erasehead coughed blood and winced in pain. His body were the definition of messed up. Burns all over his torso and left hand, and a small throwing knife deeply stabbed through his thigh. You won't win at this rate. Backup is on the way, and you think you can beat All Might. Even if you kill me, you won't get out of here. Aizawa grumbled through Shigaraki over his shoulder and kicked Dabai while Toga dodged quickly. Aizawa threw another punch, only to it land on a hard surface. Not surface, but Aizawa's eyes widened as the big creature protected Tamura by shielding him. The big brain-exposed creature instantly got a hold of Aizawa's hand and snapped his bones by just holding his wrist. You are right, Eraserhead. I can't kill All Might, but my Nomu can. Say hello to the anti-symbol of peace, the greatest asset to the League of Villains, Shigaraki said, coming out to Aizawa's side. Hey, can I play stabby, Shiggy? Pretty please, Toga begged. No, Shigaraki said, and then Kurogiri appeared out of nowhere. Kurogiri, I assume you did your part. Shigaraki, Tamura. I've separated the group, but I got a bad news. 2 students escaped to call the heroes. One tricked me with merging into shadows, Kurogiri reported. Shigaraki stood there and then wildly scratches his neck with an annoyed grunt. Kurogiri ... can't even do one job correctly. Only if you weren't a warp gate eye. I would have kicked you hard. We can't deal with the backup, Nomu, Shigaraki said, and looked at the big monster. Break his bones, and we'll get out of here. Shigaraki said the last part to his men. All the other villains are knocked out. It was now just them. Killing All Might was their goal, but he's not here, so why waste time killing some kids? Nomu slammed Aizawa, holding his head, and repeatedly broke both his bones like twigs. Aizawa didn't scream miraculously and only grunted at the intense pain. Shigaraki then saw 4 pair of heads peeking sadly at their teacher, making him chuckle. Before I go, I should hurt the number 1 pride some more. The next second, before the students could saw anything, Shigaraki was in front of them with his left good arm ready to disintegrate Sue's face. All 4 students stared wide-eyed as the atmosphere seemed like slowed down. His 5 fingertips touched the frog girl's face, but nothing happened. Shigaraki chuckled. You're so cool, Eraser. So tough. Eraserhead's eyes were red and glowing, and his hair was slightly upwards. Nomu again slammed his head onto the hard concrete, both breaking his face as well as the concrete itself. Shigaraki chuckled and looks at the 4 students. But before he could do any more damage, the entrance busted open, kicking up the smoke. I am here, came the booming yet calming tone of All Might, yelled out loud with a hit of anger in it. Who dares to hurt my students? All Might shouted, coming out of the smoke, ripping away his coat and tie. His usual cheerful smile is not on his face, but there was only gritting teeth and flaring nose. All Might is mad. Shigaraki chuckled and looks at All Might. The game continues. But in a second, Nomu was in front of Shigaraki as All Might came in lightning speed towards him. A shock wave created and All Might looked wide-eyed at Nomu, really surprised. But again All Might vanished and was visible again in the next second, holding an out-cold Eraserhead in his arms. Izumi and others ran next to All Might and carried Aizawa using Aibara vines and left so they won't weigh down All Might. Before All Might could think, he was flying as a powerful fist connects his wounded side, making All Might cough up some blood. Standing ground, All Might blocked another punch and returned the favor. Just like before, the Nomu wasn't affected by it. Every student gathered up at the stairs so they could see what's going on. 13 was in a critical condition, and they could only fearfully watch as All Might's attacks doing nothing to the Nomu. They never saw All Might having hard time beating a foe. His power is shock absorption. Wanna kill it then? You have to cut it limb by limb. Then you have a chance, All Might heard Shigaraki say. All Might then did a suplex with the Nomu in a desperate attempt to keep it down. His wound on the stomach reopened and was bleeding so much. His grip wasn't as strong to hold the Nomu on the place, and it spun out and again landed an unintended kick to All Might's open wound. All Might did all his might to bit down the scream. He was already out of time before he came here. He barely have more time. All Might shoot up to his feet and exchanged a fistfight that created a small whirlwind, knocking everyone off their feet. Even the villains got thrown across the ground, landing many feet away. The fist fight was really fast, to the point nobody could see their hands. Sadly, All Might took one more boulder-crashing fist to his wound, making his movement stop, and All Might, first time in a while, fell to his knees in front of everyone who believed in him. All Might gasped for air and continuously spit blood. He can't move without revealing his true form. The students looked at their idol in horror. Izumi was about to run, but her weak legs give out. He's Izuku's favorite hero. He can't lose. Bakugo was the one who caught her before she fell. She didn't care and didn't shrug him off. She's fully concentrated on doing something that could help All Might, but they were too shocked to do anything. The kids almost looked away when the Nomu aimed for a punch. Shigaraki laughed, and the other villains smirked at the #1 hero. The Nomu then bought his fist straight at All Might's head, and the students almost cried. Keyword, almost. The punch was devastating, but before the Nomu could punch again, something more devastating came. Something black and was shining with green. The part where the something came through exploded with a loud sound, and it came like blur and shattered the big Nomu hand upon contact, and everyone, including villains and All Might, looked at what really came for rescue. Izumi and the other students watched the green glow in disbelief. A black bird that has blade-like wings, and for the eye, green fire came out of the socket. Everyone saw the green fire. That's when they heard the loud sound of a big engine roaring at the same direction the bird came. Aizawa and 13 was barely conscious, but they could see everything. All Might's beating, the bird, everything. Shigaraki and some barely conscious villains panicked. How did that freak found us? Shigaraki yelled, and everybody looked at him and some small villains who were crawling away from the sound. What's going on? Who's coming? Kirishima asked for everyone else, to no one particular. Nobody except Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and Eraserhead knew who or what was coming. The students panicked when they saw some of now conscious villains crawling away crying. That only gave them the idea of what's coming. It's something to be afraid of. The bird descends down and sat in front of the students on the railing of the stairs. They saw how terrifying the creature is. Toga and Dabai figured out who's coming by the look of their fellow villain faces. The sound got loud, with ground shaking slightly, and with even mighty explosion something big came through the dome walls, covered in the same green fire. The big ride was fast and screeched to a halt with a skid, making everyone's eyes go even more wide. It was an old-looking truck, but the ride was on fire. Its entire metal body was burnt, and emerald green flames alight its tires, headlight, and engine. How it's still working? They questioned that again and again. Nomu, kill that fire freak. I want him dead. Shigaraki shouted desperately and shut up when he saw his Nomu lost arm not growing back. The green hellfire ashes were quick to let its regenerative help it. Why can't you heal fast, damn it? Shigaraki was panicking a bit and groaned in annoyance. Kurogiri. Shigaraki cut off as 2 fire chains came out of the group and wrapped around Kurogiri, restraining him from opening a portal. Now they are stuck here with the killing machine. Soon they heard the door of the truck opening, and they all had their heart pounding faster. Students were afraid of because this maniac. Villains are afraid of this, whoever that came here. Izumi's eyes widened in realization, seeing the green fire. The green flame. The Vigilante. Izumi said, watching the scene, and her classmates heard this. Then we're safe, right? Minda asked in a low voice, afraid of catching the Vigilante attention. Nobody had the answer for that. Soon the figure stepped out of the truck wearing all black and was wearing hoodie, and instead of seeing a face, they saw only fire and black smoke coming out of the hood. His shoulders letting out black smoke, as well as the bird has that quality too. The bird flew up and everyone watches it flying and landing on the figure's shoulder. Then the rider walked towards the villains as his boots made metal clashing sounds, and then they saw it happening. A lower-class villain was trying to crawl away, but the rider picked him up with ease and in a second turned him into nothing but black ashes they saw on the news. So this is the mysterious Vigilante. No wonder criminal activity lessened so fast. Not even All Might could do that. The villain goons, who mostly are up, tried to run away. But then, the fire raven on the rider's shoulder took off so fast that they could only see the green bright line. The bird stabbed through each and every thug villains, creating a football-size hole in middle of their chest, killing all the villains less than a minute. Izumi was eyeing the figure and the bird and then the corpses. Everyone was doing the same, and they are now clearly afraid now. That man ... or whatever he is can make them go extinct in less than a minute. What is his quirk? Is that bird his quirk too? There are hundreds and thousands of questions, but none could be answered. Nomu, kill him. Go, Shigaraki yelled, which the Nomu obeyed and jumped into action with only one hand. The Nomu swung a punch that followed with a shockwave, and Shigaraki laughed, thinking it's game over. But that never happened. The big left fist of the Nomu was simply caught by a gloved palm, and the shockwave almost lowered the hood of the rider, but gladly that didn't happen. That was the moment everyone, including All Might, heart skipped a beat out of shock and fear. Shigaraki's laugh was now non-existent, and Dabai, who was a bit calm, started to show concern. Toga's smile wasn't on her face anymore, and with the students, even Todoroki and Bakugo including Shishiya's face, could not hide their fear anymore. That man just caught the devastating punch that almost killed All Might, with no effort, as if it's all a joke. Ryder tilted his hooded head to side like he always does and stretched his other hand back and punches the big bulky Nomu. The shock absorption ability thrown out of the window when the Rider fist connects the black monster's chest, managing to create a few inches deep wound before sending it halfway across the big wide ground. The shock absorption eat out half the impact of the strike but still send the heavy powerful bioengineered human that All Might couldn't inflict a scratch. But, impossible. Even All Might couldn't do anything to that thing. Nina whined and others gulped when she reminded them about it again. Are we gonna die, too? Minda cried out. What? How? Kill that freak. Kill it. Shigaraki shouted, encouraging the Nomu, who stood up and ran at the rider and punches the fiery vigilante head, making the rider skid almost 5 feet away. And the rider only just stood, head sideways, and then was a silence. Rider's palm slowly glowed green and he summoned a weapon similar to a sai. It was big and heavy when it materializes in his hand. A big sledgehammer with black charred handle and green fiery head that were decorated with hundreds of small black spikes. The weapon itself is the definition of terror, and the definition of hell is Ghost Rider. In a speed of light, the rider swings the new-built weapon across the monster's legs, causing them splatter around in millions of tiny bloody pieces, making the monster fall down and with hellfire on its wound. Regeneration didn't work at all. Ghost Rider brought down the weapon, destroyed its one good hand as well. That's not all. Ghost Rider repeatedly brought down the sledgehammer, crushing the monster slowly, and when the sledgehammer hit its head, the whole fleshy pile turned into ashes. No, you fire freak. Shigaraki got cut off as Toga and Dabai surrounded by black slime, and they teleported away, leaving behind Kurogiri. The hellfire was too hot for the slime. However, the chains didn't cause Kurogiri any damage. Izuku reverted back to his mortal form, and everyone saw the fire and smoke on his body is gone now, not including the bird in the ride. Izumi's eyes widened, as well as Bakugo and other Wana girls. They looked at each other and figured out the figure as the same person who they saw at the cemetery. Izuku stalked towards Kurogiri slowly as his weapon vanished and stared at the mist man wrapped up with the fire chain, and everyone eyed the figure as well as Aizawa and 13. They both can't speak, but they're barely conscious. Izuku reached and touched Kurogiri's head. I can see the trapped soul in you. Never couldn't get free and was trapped in this form. They gave you the false name, Kurogiri. Or I better call your actual name, Oboro Shirakumo, Izuku said. Aizawa barely heard it and was more conscious now. Oboro Shirakumo. The loud cloud, Oboro Shirakumo. Aizawa, dear friend. The friend that he couldn't save. Aizawa want to believe it's all a lie, but the vigilante voice somehow made him believe that it's all true. Because it's really true. They never seen Oboro's body after the incident. Did they bury someone else? Kurogiri was silent, and Izuku can see a dead face of Oboro with scars all over his face. Izuku then turned to look at a bleeding All Might who was struggling to keep up his buff form. Izuku can see the honest truth in All Might's eyes and walked towards and leaned to whisper in his ear. You are a great and true hero, All Might. But I'll call you Toshinori Yagi, the greatest hero that ever lived until this point. But you forgot your ways that you came through. Everyone loves you, but you forgot one good importance about you. You were quirkless too, and you proved quirkless can be a hero. But you forgot that fact. You lied to someone else saying, quirkless can't be a hero like you. The truth is they can. Izuku said, leaning back and looked at the students and saw the fear in their eyes, and finally he held direct eye contact with Izumi, who shivered under his gaze, even though she can't see his face, but only two familiar green glowing eyes. Ushould be afraid of situations like this. Be the heroes the society wants. Fake heroes have no mercy from me. So that fear is your own burden. Hide that burden with a smile when you save people. Izuku told them, and Izumi's eyes widened and she looks at Bakugo, who was surprised as well. He got the reference too. That's what Izuku told them a while back. Then the teachers came to the scene, and Snipe immediately pointed his guns at Izuku, who tuned to his hell form and spine shot at him only to see nothing happen. The bird came and sat on Rider's shoulder, and the rider looked back at his ride, which, much to others' surprise, drove towards the rider, who calmly climbed it and drove through the hole that he bust through. The aftermath was severe. Major consequences fell upon Yue's throat after accidentally endangering the students' lives at the USJ attack. Nezu had hard time sorting out the case and even did a big part in destroying a whole media channel due to them accusing false claims saying other than what happened only to get more views. The parents of the students needed a full true explanation that eat out the poor chimera head. In the end, the parents was satisfied with the explanation. The students are to be thanked, supporting UA and told everyone the facts. Partially though, UA has faults on their part that leading to a whole 5 to 6 hours of meeting to discuss the topic of expanding the security and even securing the dorms and finally upgrading the invisible barrier around the compound. And the debatable topic was yet to be brought up: the appearance of the green flame. The heroes are really confused about what's the deal with the vigilante. The man is a mass murderer and at the same time a savior. Contemplating either the man, a hero or villain, is as impossible as getting a hold of him. He just destroyed properties to make sure the people he helps are safe. To be honest, the high-spec hero, Nezu, even brainstorming uselessly to think of any loopholes or reasonings of the vigilante's dangerous way of saving someone. The witnesses, which was those who saved by the man, gave almost countless of different scenarios that filled them with more info of what he can do. Nezu could not make a sense of whatever he heard. Not even sure of what kind of quirk the vigilante possessed that not even Aizawa Erasure can't erase. He a fire quirk wielder. That's all what they could make sense of his abilities. Nezu even did watch the CCTV recordings of the USJ and saw the whole action between All Might versus the Nomu and then the Green Flame. The heroes in mission did saw it too. They didn't felt fear, seeing it would be a clear evident lie. Endeavor, the most mad one among them, was clearly showing jealousy and hatred whenever he hears or sees about the vigilante. Even after watching the powerhouse killing machine having a one-side fight with the Nomu, Endeavor refused to believe that he can't beat the Green Flame. That all aside, 3 heroes were heavily injured during the attack, was luckily recovering at a steady pace. All Might had to go through the suffering he felt 6 years ago, and thankfully, Recovery Girl made his condition less fatal. They had to deeply give their attention to his vital organs, which was damaged out of rest of his outside of body. The wound on his abdomen grew in size and deepened slightly, and his lungs almost had come out due to they had to remove the shattered part of the ribcage. The wound will had it poking out even if they put together and healed. Thankfully, he's now in tip-top condition. Sadly though, his time limit lessened to 50 minutes out of the 3 hours he had before. The symbol of peace can only be active for less than an hour. At least they are thankful the Green Flame showed up just in time. Who knows what would have gone wrong if he didn't. Nezu was thankful for what the vigilante did, even though their main priority is to capture the man. Toshinori Yagi aka All Might sat on the bed reading a magazine he found interesting. In it he read many claims and theories as well as made-up tales on the Green Flame. The book itself is the reason the Green Flame name got popular and media chose to call the vigilante by. Who knew? A simple piece of paper can change almost anything. Toshinori was reading it, and each and every word written in it is all just some lies. He had to say it for sure. The media can go to an extent of anything to promote and gain more goods and won't hesitate to even ruin a poor individual life. But there was something bugging since he met the infamous vigilante. You are a great and true hero, All Might, but I'll call you Toshinori Yagi, the greatest hero that ever lived until this point. But you forgot your ways that you came through. Everyone loves you, but you forgot one good importance about you. You were quirkless too, and you proved quirkless can be a hero. But you forgot that fact. You lied to someone else saying, quirkless can't be a hero like you. The truth is they can. Those words of the vigilante left an impact in him and can't help but to think about it continuously. After all, whatever the vigilante said was the truth. He was quirkless once, and that same him lied to someone else saying quirkless cannot be a hero. But the main thing that bugging him is the question is how really the Green Flame knows about him. How did he knows about Toshinori's biggest secrets and past? How did he know All Might's real name? And even, how did he know All Might did lie to someone? There's a feeling in him saying that it's not only thing the vigilante knows. The door to his hospital room opened and came in Midnight and Nezu. Midnight almost spits her lollipop at the sight of a fully well and awake All Might. Well, quite an unexpected sight. I thought you won't be awake for a full year. Your wounds was that worse? Nezu chirped as he climbed on top of a bedside chair. All Might smiled and placed the magazine aside, which Midnight picked up with a raised brow. I've read it already. You think even half of it true? She spoke. I doubt that. They wrote a full page based on I bringing back my vintage hero suit back at one point. It was a hoax, I tell you. All Might said, smiling. That's what I thought. Bastards doesn't keep standards, don't they? Midnight joked, earning 2 chuckles. They just wants content. Make one if there aren't one. That's how media works. A fine good excuse why I closed a whole channel. I'm pretty sure they want to believe it's all a hoax too. Nezu said, laughing, and All Might's sweat dropped. You have your own brutal ways of dealing stuff, so what's going on outside? All Might asked. You didn't miss much. The students are all safe. Panicked parents, nosy reporters that I've dealt with in the capture of the villain named Kurogiri. The warp gate was pretty much cooperative and Tsukachi arrested him. Nezu said, that's pretty much. All Might sighed. Then Nezu changed his demeanor to more of a serious one. Say, All Might, we've saw what happened at USJ. Are we missing something else too? Nezu asked, making All Might look up at the inside. Then you guys saw his strength too, right? Yeah, Even Snipe Gun didn't do anything when we arrived at the scene. We were shocked to see what he did with the villains. Midnight said, the green flame is more than I could understand. His powers are strange, fascinating even. It's like, with one quirk, he can do anything. My quirk can't even find anything on him. My theories are repeatedly proven wrong with a new case of his appearance. I am admitting, I really am interested in meeting him. Anything else you've figured out, All Might? Nezu asked. I do have only one good info on him, All Might started, earning their attention. He knew everything about me. My real name, my intention, my past, and he even knows that I was quirkless. All Might finished. The two was shocked but still kept calm. Dealing with this vigilante did only taught them one important lesson. That is, not to be shocked of what you hear about him. Even after having all this information on him, they still have nothing. As if he himself a vast unreachable ocean that cannot be explored. Even explored, there is always a bigger fish lurking deep. Adds more clues to the puzzle, I guess. I was even wondering if we could stand a chance when table turns. He's a mass murderer, but saves people now. Can't tell if he'll ditch the saving part in near future. Nezu said, thinking. That's some far-fetched thinking you got there, Nezu. More of theory, I say. In real, he told the students and myself, be the hero society needs. If he's a killer with no purpose, at USJ, you would have built a memorial for all of us, Nezu. He has an ideal he sticks with, it seems. Like he can read your mind. I think he kills those who deserves it. A thought, that's it. All Might said slowly and slightly winced, feeling a small pain on his side. Nezu sighed, nodding, and Midnight was the one to speak next. You just think that maybe. What about that missed villain? Why he's alive. And why Eraser just acting sicko until we let him go see the villain? Explanation, Midnight asked. All Might looks at them, eyes wide. What do you mean Eraser left? Shouldn't he on hospital bed just like me? I clearly remember I hold him in my arms. I was even scared. Eraser wasn't moving. All Might blurted out loud, ignoring the stabbing pain. Calm down, All Might. You know Eraser. There must be something important. Nezu reassured. All Might then remembered something. Yes, maybe Aizawa has his reasons. Probably of what happened between the villain and Green Flame. All Might said. Yes, I saw it on the recordings. Sadly, I couldn't quite hear them. What really happened, All Might? Nezu asked, and All Might nodded, agreeing for an explanation. When Green Flame appeared, he tied up the villain using his fire chain. Surprisingly, I remember how unharmed the villain was. Later on, he even talked to the villain with something to do with his soul. He said, trapped soul. The reason behind it wasn't clear, though. Just like with me, Green Flame knew his past and real name. I don't know how Green Flame knows everything on everyone. I can't even believe that there is a quirk that can do all this. What's he doing? All Might explained, letting the other two take in everything. Do you heard what the villain name was? It might be helpful for Tsukachi. Nezu wondered. If I could recall it correctly, I remember Green Flame calling the villain Oboro Shirakumo. All Might said, not knowing the value behind the name. However, Nezu and Midnight, who felt like an arrow piercing through their heart, was familiar with the name. The one and only Loud Cloud. Midnight felt like her heart almost stopped due to the sudden shock, and unknowingly, single tear left her eyes. Hearing one of her best friend name, who sacrificed his own dreams and life, Midnight was so shocked and told herself the harsh truth. Oboro is no more. They buried him. But why a villain has that name? She wanted to believe it's all a lie. But if it was a lie, how in the world the vigilante knows Oboro? She couldn't answer any of it. So that's why Aizawa was going crazy this morning. He too believes that their Oboro is still alive. Midnight suddenly ran out of the room. She was heading at the place where Aizawa and Mike is. She wants to know. All Might was confused, and Nezu explained everything about Oboro. How he was the best friend of Eraserhead, present Mike and Midnight. How valuable and precious person he was, and how tragically he passed away. They were sure he was gone. All Might sighed and let all the tension merge onto his brain. So why are you here anyways, Nezu? That look on your face telling me there's something you want to talk. All Might finally asked the question. Nezu was a bit unsure at first, but it's the perfect time for this. Taking a deep sigh, Nezu calmed himself a bit. You still remember why you were here as a teacher? All Might's eyes widened and nodded. I think now your time is running low. It's time you choose your successor. The next day was class off. To cope up with their normal routines again after all that happened, USJ inflicted a harsh impact on both Class A and B in less than 24 hours. Many of them gone through a counseling session, which helped them ease up slightly. In those 24 hours, they realized how precious the life they never gave as much value before. At USJ, they couldn't even think of anything straight. Most of them was thankfully completely unharmed, while some had minor bruises or scratches. For them, their teachers suffered. All they did was defend and follow Eraserhead commands. Izumi had a hard time convincing her mother she had no injuries and was out of harm's way from beginning. She used to lying though. Being once a rebellious ticking bomb, she was few years old. Izumi did lie to her family when the truth is a bit more harsh. Thankfully, in the end, Izumi was off the hook and staying on UA dorms. Her friends did the same. They believe sticking with one another in situations like this is a true quality of being a hero. Izumi was on her bed staring at the white ceiling thinking of all the what-ifs. Like, what if they never gone for the rescue practice? What if they stick with Aizawa? What if All Might couldn't be there? What if Aizawa didn't have activated his quirk when Shigaraki was almost touching Tsu's face? What if the villain didn't even show up? What if they managed to kill All Might? In thousands of what if, one stands out the most. What if Green Flame never came for the rescue? A single question she didn't want to be answered. One possible scenario may have happened. They dying in the end along with All Might and teachers. The villains were brutal, not holding back with their attacks. The intentions behind Villain Strike were to kill them. Even they saw the unbeatable and mighty hero All Might almost dying in the hands of some brainless thing that still gives them nightmares. Green Flame did his entrance later on. Izumi shiver at the thought of him. She can't believe that they saw him before they finds that he the most dangerous vigilante behind the unsolvable massacres. Within few minutes, he destroyed a strong group of villains that somehow managed to make All Might fall on his knees. The strong vigilante was the one presented a beautiful flower to Izuku at his birthday and they didn't even know. But at both of their encounters, Izumi felt different auras radiating from man. At Cemetery, he had a confusing yet comforting aura. But at USJH he radiated an aura of terror. Even villains were afraid of the man. Izumi signed up in a site mainly created after Green Flame. People there shares their thoughts, experiences, claims and tales. But following articles never was accurate it seems. They thought at first, the vigilante is some sort of mutated fireman with no physical body, and Izumi even checked comments of thousands of people that has many unique yet weird theories. Seeing in person, Izumi decided one thing. Delete her account she separately created for the site. Last thing she could rely on is probably the false news an individual can see there and mistook the reality. The one thing everyone knows, the vigilante wields some sort of fire quirk with uncountable perks. The next what they know of the mystery of the black ashes. At least Izumi and others saw how the black ashes are made. She laughed at her pathetic excuse, because back when heard of the vigilante fire quirk, did some comparison between her fire quirk and Bakugo explosion with Green Flame. She hate to admit, but her burn is nowhere near as powerful as the base power of his quirk. That's another reason why she'll do as he told them to. Be a true hero, who the society looks up to. After all, she already on the same path as Green Flame. Difference is they's way far at the front of the tracks. It'll take God knows how forsaken years when she'll fulfill her promise. She doesn't want a challenge with him either. All she could do is work up to the point where she can at least see the finish line of her goal. Thinking of all random things, one thing stuck in her mind. Few words precisely. USHOULDn't be afraid of situations like this. Be the heroes the society wants. Fake heroes have no mercy from me. So that fear is your own burden. Hide that burden with a smile when you save people. Those lines are almost the exact of what Izuku used to say. The words she once didn't paid much attention to, thinking that's bunch of hot breath Izuku wasting. After he gone, those words really started to click on her like a reminder. And she didn't miss the reference Green Flame hid in his words. Not hid, but few different choices of word with more commanding and strong touch behind it that forced everyone to consider his words. Sure, they'll listen. Having the Green Flame on you trail behind you isn't gonna be more fun. But as true future hero, Izumi not gonna fulfill her goal in fear of Green Flame coming after her. No, she'll fulfill it because she wants and needs to. For once in her life, she wants to do something that will help the society live peacefully with no threats lurking behind. Staring subconsciously up at ceiling, Izumi heard her phone went off with a notification popping up. She sighed, reaching for her phone next her, still staring the ceiling. She brought the bright screen to face it and she read the digital words. School assembly meeting. All students are requested to attend in 15 minutes at the assembly ground. Uniforms aren't required for the first years getting day off. That's what it says. Wait, I thought we're getting a day off. That's weird. She mumbled and then she heard a knock on the door. Izumi, can we come in? A voice came. Izumi sighed, adjusting her slightly wrinkled black skirt and white shirt with black floral design. Burst in already, she said sarcastically, so her friends won't notice her tired posture. Well, she doesn't think others are doing any better. Yura and other girls came in with confused faces. A clear indication they have no clue about the notification either. Hey, do you check out the message? Mina asked with a finger tapping on her chin. I did. You guys got a clue of why there's an assembly today? I thought it was a free day. Izumi replied and other girls shook their heads and no. I guess we know maybe. I have this feeling. It's gonna be something relates with yesterday's events. I think we should get ready to see others showing us pity. Gyro said, a bit frustrated. The punk girl was mad because she couldn't do anything yesterday to deal with the villain she, Momo and Kaminari faced. The electric boy, even when Ganyai mode, he was useful. Why don't we let teachers explain us? Kiro, Sue suggested the logical idea. What other choice we have anyways? Toru said in her usual bubbly voice. Sue's suggestion is best. We must hear out our teacher point of explanation. Coming up into conclusion is pointless. Momo blurted out, suddenly shifting behavior to a more professional one. Don't you heard our vice rep? Get your legs moving, ladies. Mina butted in with an air fist bump. And nobody knows why she getting so excited about. They nodded agreeing and left the room and met up with Ida and Kirishima. After a earful from their robot-like rep, they finally made it to assembly ground. Class 1 had their eyes open wide after seeing the students gathered at assembly ground. They didn't expect to see second and third year students will be here. Usually, assembly are held differently for all the 3 years. Seeing them gathered all at once gave them enough idea of how important and serious meeting this will be. Suddenly everyone gathered flinched violently at a loud sound, more like a bark. A TTE.GRRRWWRGRESTGRWWRGGRRNESRA hound dog barked. Students' sweat dropped and didn't even realize it was an announcement. Are we supposed to do something? I don't get anything. You, Kaminari said. Was he speaking? No way, I missed that part. Siro replied. Why was he even speaking in the first place? Kirishima asked dumbly and others shook their shoulders. Izumi stood there unable to process what's even happening. First they were here on assembly when today was day off. Then this. She won't be surprised if something more weird happens. Hound Dog nodded, leaving the podium, which later take hold by Midnight, who surprisingly lost all glow and color of her face. Exhaustion and frustration can be seen clearly on her tired eyes. While at hospital she was having her chill time walking around asking for their well-being. Now her appearance clearly resembles Aizawa. Speaking of Aizawa, they couldn't see him anywhere. Midnight takes a hold of the mic and spoke. Now. The notice was short, we know. Principal Nezu wants to speak to all about an important event. Do not come up with any ruckus. Principal will be here in a minute. She announced what Hound Dog intended to announce before. Events. Izumi wondered out loud and her friends had her full attention. They discussed random things about the topic and Izumi noticed their mouse-like principal along with a bandage-covered Eraserhead, Vlad King and All Might, followed by rest of the teachers. Nezu chuckled seeing his students were still as active as ever. Lowering the mic, he cleared his throat, silencing the crowded students. Good morning, students. As you see and confused about me, I'm a dog, a mouse, a bear. What am I? I being your principal, here for a talk, that's right. Nezu started with a rhyme. The students' sweat dropped again and Nezu cleared his throat again. As Midnight mentioned about the short notice of summoning all of you here. Don't worry, it'll be a few minutes talk. Basically, I've heard you kids talking about this meeting having a connection with the USJ incident. But no, I summoned you all here to announce the tradition of our school. Second and third years may understand, not being so dramatic. We're having the sports festival just like any other years, Nezu said in his usual happy-go mood. Sports festival? Like the big tournament that surpasses Olympics? Izumi wondered. Students all froze on the spot. Unlike before, students seemed more unsure than happy, hearing or experiencing a villain attack. They don't know how to feel about this. What if villain attacks again? There must be countless people gonna buy a ticket for the seats. And they are afraid if any villains sneak in with regular spectators. Seeing their unsure and wary expression, Nezu figured out what's going on in their minds. The sports festival is getting closer and we did already beef up security and even arranged many pro-hero assistants of guarding the arena. Like always, first years is at the center of the attention. Being inexperienced, I'll suggest you kids ask for any friendly advice from the seniors. Nezu stopped and that's it. Izumi was confused of why they are called here anyways. Only for a few 2-minute speech or announcement. Shouldn't they just sent the notification on their phones or something? Izumi was just fuming. She was comfortably on her bed relaxing and they just ruined. While she's having an inner beatdown, she felt she's being watched. She's sure someone is staring at her. Then it's gone. Oh, it was nothing. She said, only to have the feeling come back and leaves and again come back. Sweating slightly, she looked around curiously until she saw it. All Might was looking away from her and looked at a senior student with blonde hair. Izumi raised her brow confused. It's not like other teachers aren't watching every one of them, but All Might on it looking between both her and the big boy. He has a bit strained calculating expression. He's contemplating or having a comparison of them. Finally, when All Might looks at her again, he saw her already staring back at him. Like nothing happened, All Might looks away. What the? Izumi wondered but shook it off. She then noticed All Might nodding at Nezu, who looks at the boy, and Nezu smiled. She even saw Aizawa as tired but pained eyes exchanging looks at nothing in particular, including Midnight and present Mike. The unnaturally dead aura surrounding them made her question what happened last night after they left hospital. Well, how in the first place they are fine altogether and walking. Aizawa is mummified, covered in band-aids. All Might even had a life-threatening health condition. And there they are, fit and walking. Tired but walking. Tell the truth, Aizawa desperately shouted, leaning his forehead against the glass cell barrier. He has a slight glint of tears forming his eyes as he stared at the mist villain. Police guards spectating the scene looks each other confused glances watching Eraserhead literally banging his head on the glass yelling at Kurogiri. Eraserhead, present mic time's up. Time to leave. The officer's commands starting to concern. Aizawa's hands were wrapped in a cast and for his defense, his capture weapon securely wrapped around his neck. Present Mike soothingly rubs Aizawa's shoulder in a calming manner which did the trick. However, the ruckus only affected Kurogiri less. He pointed out his story and denied the fact of being someone named Oboro Shirakumo. In fact, Kurogiri didn't even knew this two heroes. Hey, please calm down. Please, Mike cooed hugging Aizawa sideways, having his own set of tears flowing. Maybe we're the one with no proof. Come on, we cannot break rules here, right? Mike soothingly seasoned and stood up lifting up Aizawa along. Aizawa protested at first but complied eventually. Can't have police charge them too. Aizawa nodded and let Mike help him to stand up. Before leaving, Aizawa gave Kurogiri one last look and sighed in both defeat and frustration. Did Green Flame lied? If did, then why? And how? Oboro Shirakumo was never a famous person to begin with to think. Green Flame maybe got info of his existence, but claiming a villain as their lost friend, confidently and believably. Aizawa did somehow trust his words. If not, he wouldn't have just ran out of his hospital bed wounded. After a long one-sided conversation, Aizawa got nothing which made him overthink scenarios and somehow still cannot dump the idea of Kurogiri being Oboro. Walking out of the entrance Tartarus, midnight was on them in a second surprising them both. I heard what's going on. Is it true? She asked in a low voice. We don't know either. Shouta was going crazy when we got here. All we have is the belief, Mike replied sadly. Before either of them could continue their conversation, Aizawa walked away confusing the other two. Where are you going? Aizawa didn't reply or looked back. He just walked away knowing they'll follow him. He needed answers and fast. Relying on Kurogiri's answer is out of option now it seems. Aizawa in this matter knew what he had to do. Right now, only one person can answer him and that is. He heard footsteps behind him and a tight hug came from behind and carefully envelopes him. Mike cooed comforting words in Aizawa's ear trying his best to calm the sleep-deprived hero. Where are you going, Eraser? You need rest now. Midnight said coming face to face with him. Aizawa looks at her and took a deep breath. To get my answers. He replied simply. How? Mike questions his husband. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Midnight mumbled enough for them to hear. Aizawa looks at her and nodded. Yes, first I have to get a hold of Green Flame. You know the rest. Aizawa replied, eyes cold and harsh. Once he lost his best friend, the reason he become a hero. Can't have lose that best friend again. Situation matters too though. If Green Flame is lying, Aizawa will lose his mind altogether. Find him. Remember we searched forever and still couldn't find him. I doubt we'll find him that easily. Mike said. Well, just think. Even if we are successful catching Green Flame, what gives you the idea he'll open his mouth? Midnight reasoned. Aizawa shook his head at her. I can't guarantee the possibilities, but to find him first, we should search for villains or something. At least our confrontation rate is not a 0%. I have this feeling we find him, Aizawa said and jumped up using his capture weapon to sling across the city faster. Without using his hands, controlling capture weapon was tough. Still manageable, Aizawa mainly used his scarf and legs while his hands were out of stress inside the cast. His trained yet tired red eyes roamed around the city outlines, making out a possible activity here and there. Last time's encounter, Aizawa knew another specialty of Green Flame. He has a motorcycle so loud scary, and focused mainly on sounds around him. Finally one sound caused him halt mid-flight and hang there on a ledge a tall skyscraper and hold his breath. A technique let you even hear the flap of a butterfly wings. If only you're well trained and focused. Aizawa slowly looks around and heard the same noise of a small blast. The echo of the bike engine bounced back off the walls the narrow pathway. Izuku sped through the night breeze in his black hellcycle. People are in their houses and barely even people can be seen side of the road. Not that he cared much. Until they are in their safe zone, out of harm's way, he's not slightly bothered by it. Why being so nosy and overprotective? At least he can sense. There is at least one strong soul in every household, and knew both children and women are safe with the owners the said souls. All matters are their safety. Izuku had his hood down letting his white fluffy hair caressed by the cool atmosphere and he had this wide smile plastered across his face. Riding his hellcycle freely around the city is a refreshment for his hell form. A one good bike ride gives you the excitement and energy you'll get when you're at an amusement park. He was also happy about some kidnapped kids can finally go back to their houses. The rider gone berserk and destroyed the hidden lab and murdered the assholes there making sure the kids did not see anything. He sent them through his fire portal to a police station so the officers could identify and contact the parents of the children. He could help them easily by himself. But scaling a police officer's sense of protection as well as to figure if the police has the stained soul or not. Thankfully, the officers there was so kind and helpful, which Izuku appreciate. Otherwise, the station probably just ashes by now. Izuku made sure there are no cameras around before he let his hoodie drop few minutes ago. He can see the whole city while riding his bike. Because his pet raven is a living satellite that follows him around while still in the air, unless he wants it close to him. His bird really loves him and was a loyal pet friend who will do anything to guide its master. It was pointless though, but still Izuku let it guard him and have an eagle-eye shot of the city. Izuku stopped at the red light while putting his hood back on. Around these traffic areas has many cameras that may record his face and reveal his identity. Izuku looks up at the red light waiting for it to turn green, but instantly his head shot towards his right. Someone being hurt, and that someone is someone dear to him. Growling, he speed up his hell cycle, not even caring about the traffic light. There are a few cars here and there, driven to the owner destination. Hand over your wallets, jewelry. Hand it over in 5 seconds before I shoot you. The criminal with blade nail ordered, pointing all 10 of his fingers pointed at the two ladies. The first woman had a pissed look on her sharpened features and her red pupils stare a hole through the criminal. He felt nervous but held on tight with his blackmailing. The furious-looking woman had ash blonde spiky hair and red eyes and natural pink lips and pale skin. Her hourglass body were covered by a red knee-length pencil skirt and white undershirt along with red jacket. She tightly gripped her purse, not even having mercy on her own belongings, and sent staring daggers at the nervous-looking villain. Meanwhile, the other woman was doing the opposite, the ash blonde-haired woman. She had grassy green hair locks tied into a ponytail and has the same color eyes. She a bit chubby and short and wore a similar outfit like the other woman. Difference is her skirt and jacket are light blue and pink undershirt. Please, leave us be. We cannot hand over our money. Our children are at hospital. TL, the short woman pleaded, and was cut off when the man shot one of his nails at her. Thankfully, his aiming skills was worse and missed her entirely by a bit inch. The sharp nail hits a post and created a visible dent there. I don't care about your damn kids. Hand over your wallets or else, the criminal shouted threateningly. The blonde woman eyes twitches. Like hell we do that, damn. Leave us or we have ways to deal with you. The blonde bluffed, hoping to take him off guard. A one good bitch slap would be enough for him. At least her bitch slap is that powerful. The criminal panicked but accidentally shot some of his nails, which didn't hit the two because they moves backwards. Shut up, damn it. I won't say it again, he said, regaining his composure. What do we do, Mitsuki? The short woman asked fearfully at Mitsuki. Bluff some more. This guy is poop head. No big threat, Mitsuki whispered back. They too thought of anything, and the villain carefully moved closer to them. The villain shot his nails again, which accidentally hit a LED commercial board and hitting something which made the board explode. The explosion was small but loud. The two women flinched at the voice. Before the villain could move closer, they saw a black figure coming out of the left and kicked the villain in the head, making him cry out and fall on his back. Mitsuki and Inko stared at their savior, relieved and thankful. Mr. Aizawa. Mitsuki acknowledges the man by respectfully bowing, and Inko did the same. Aizawa looks back at them and nodded. Are you hurt? He asked in his tired voice. The two women looks at Aizawa when they heard him ask. We are, but you sure you are okay? Mitsuki blurted out, earning a nudge from Inko. That's rude. Inko scolded her best friend, who shrugged. Yeah, Aizawa replied anyways. But then they heard shuffles and turned to see the villain is up, this time pointing a pistol at them. On their knees, including you, hero. I won't hesitate shooting this thing. The villain blackmailed. And don't even think of attack me, he added, pointing at Aizawa. Gun down. There's no escape. Aizawa spoke carefully, and the villain struggled to maintain his composure. That's when his spirit vanished, when hearing the loud sound of a bike which slowly came to their side across the road. The black motorcycle got closer and stopped at the other side of the road, and the rider got off it. The three and the villain knew who the man is, but the two women knows him as someone who came to give respects to Izuku at cemetery. The villain shivered. He did heard of the massacres and even knows the vigilante roams around on his bike. Seeing the hooded figure, he instantly knew who was this man. The villain alarmingly pointed his gun at Izuku with shaky arms. Don't move. His sentence was unfinished when his iconic fire chains emerges from the ground and ripped the villain apart and eventually turning him into ashes. Mitsuki and Inko had their eyes wide open, noticing the black ashes, realizing who or what the figure is. That same man was at Izuku's grave, is none other than the most feared vigilante, Green Flame. A mass murderer attended an important gathering at the cemetery. To pay respects, Izuku did his job before anyone knows it and walked back to his bike, only to stopped by something wrapping around him. Aizawa concentrated his capture weapon, having a hard time controlling it. Now here's the man in flesh he's so urgently looking for, and he needs answers. Izuku turned around to look at the three and finally at Aizawa's eyes and read his thoughts. He even looked longingly at his mother, even though she won't recognize him. You need answers, I see, Izuku said, not really surprising the underground hero. Green Flame knows everything. Yes, you know why I'm here then. Now tell me the truth. I want the answers. No lie, Aizawa ordered, tightening his capture weapon hold on Izuku, who chuckled. You already heard me. The dead body holds a pained and trapped soul. I'll free that soul sometimes. Izuku burned the capture weapon and rode off his bike, leaving the three behind. Hope you guys didn't mind reading the chap. I wasn't sure why it turned out not so great. After USJ incident, critiques did nothing but more like advertised UA name. More people talking about it and aware of UA more than ever. Appearance of Green Flame attracted even more attention than they first thought. People weren't even slightly aware Nezu influence of closing a news channel. For them, it didn't appear on their TV channel menu. The channel itself was at the highest peak, which got sidelined under UA and Nezu's shadow. The hot topics were bigger than that, like the upcoming sports festival. Even Olympics got overshadowed, and people don't care about those type of old games. They're interested in spending money to get the front seat at the arena. UA always held the most entertaining sports there is. Many schools do sports festivals, only as a dark match of a boxing. No cameras, no telecasts, zero audience other than parents of the students. However, UA has its prestige and luxury. The whole Japan, or even the people around the globe, can watch the UA Sports Festival live on TV. The site of UA has the subscribers to beef up the money Nezu can spend to conduct such an event. Those are few of the 1,000 reasons why many are jealous of UA. But they all hide their emotions, knowing they can't do anything about it. Sports festival, surprisingly for the citizens, is taking place in half a week, and 3 days precisely. Sure, they still criticizing UA for what happened at USJ. They're excited about the festival is gonna be an understatement. Obviously, hype already built in their heart the second they laid eyes on colorful posters, commercials, news. The whole Japan is looking forward to watch the future heroes compete against one another and want to know who can match the strength of number one hero All Might. In their eyes, All Might still is the strongest being in the universe. Sadly for them, they have only half knowledge of USJ incident. All Might saved students along with other teachers, and Green Flame was there to kill the villains. That's how the reports are published. In their eyes, All Might is still unbeatable, and many believes that Green Flame won't even stand a chance against him. He's the only reason they feel safe out of their comfort zone. Green Flame will lose a battle they want to see in person and see the mysterious Vigilante defeated by the almighty All Might. Little did they know that Ghost Rider is unbeatable, a walking destruction. The destruction who causes extinction upon the evil, someone beyond their imagination. The city was crowded that day. Footpaths overflowed with life, just minding their own business, sometimes bumping into one another. Like the road, the popular mall was as crowded but can move around easily. Even so many people gathered in here. The mall was so big enough that those who gathered would seem like not much. It's that huge. Kids stayed closer or clasped their hand with their parents. Recently, the mall was so popular like an amusement park and can see many tourists or natives enjoying their stay. There were almost hundreds of shops of different varieties, tempting customers to check out the goodies. Small children literally dragged their parents around like ragdoll with sparkling, excited eyes. A typical children thing. Out of the thousands, one person thankfully was out of limelight. He takes in a relieved sigh and smiled to himself. Izuku roamed around, really refreshed to be around people, strangers, but his kind nonetheless. At least he was their kind before he died. That thought gave him a reasons to smile. He's dead, but he's alive. That's the most funniest joke he ever heard. He shook his head, not wanting to laugh again as he walked with the horde of people he never met before. They are sinners too, but forgivable. Their soul isn't strained, just filled with admiration, joy, sadness, or whatever a normal person should feel. Izuku looked down at his own appearance, which was not his rider outfit. It was weird though. Striping out of that black clothing was like peeling away his skin. But eventually he got used to normal clothing again. Now he wore gray hoodie and black sweatpants and red shoes. He got it in a rather complicated way, though. Since he was planning a walk few days ago, he once felt a sense of a sinner nearby. However, the man wasn't a serial killer, smuggler, or kidnapper. No, he was just crazy rich. How being rich is a sin? Well, he's a rich man who hides his wealth by running an average-looking textiles. He sold original stuff. Dress lovers would go crazy seeing their dream company outfits that was pure and real. Many sample materials was next to each items, and that alone proves the quality of the items. However, the owner has his way of being greedy, and he sold everything triple expensive so people would buy stuff and he can get so much money. He has millions of profits, yet he was an average citizen in front of others. Izuku visited the place 2 days ago with his hood up and confronted the man. The shopkeeper first made fun of Izuku and even threatened to call police. Izuku just laughed at the man, saying, if he called police he also have to explain why or how he was so wealthy. Izuku could see what crime the man did and saw the reason behind his bank balance. The man once helped out a businessman with some file-related problems under the conditions of the businessman giving money if the task smoothly done. The owner panicked but threatened Izuku with his illusion quirk, which may cause a person go crazy. Izuku see through the man's bluff, letting the man see his green hellfire fist, shutting the man's mouth. Izuku then made the man donate all his undeserved money to cancer centers, orphanage, or even charity cases, emptying his bank balance millions to just few $1,000s. Izuku did not stop there and picked himself some cheapest clothes consist of 2 sweatpants and 2 hoodies and 1 red shoes. Izuku could see how much money the man deserves by just looking at his actions through his soul, which told him the truth, and he made the man pay the bills of his shopping. After all, he's a charity case too. He can't just ask for money or ask for supplies just like that. He made the sinners pay, and he made the man pay for what he done. That's how Izuku made a millionaire poor in 5 minutes. Now all the orphanages and charity cases would not have to struggle anymore. Many kids can eat good food and wear new clothes. Many lives can be saved by the donated money. And Izuku will make sure only the deserving people could touch the money. And by that act, Izuku already started phase 2. Purify or hunt down the souls of the fake heroes. Police are yet to discover the corpses of the 2 local heroes he hunted down yesterday. And the other one pro hero got his soul purified and now doing his hero job carefully and good. Izuku already decided to purify those who committed less crimes and did not kill or take advantage on women. Killer money-starved heroes dies. Not like Izuku won't approve heroes earning money. Keyword, earning. He approve heroes having money they deserve after they risk their life for others. At least they deserves that much. Izuku chuckled at the thoughts of the crying shop owner after he lost all the money and moved forward again. Looking around, Izuku taken the view. People joyfully roaming here and there, visiting souvenir shops, game corners, restaurants, candy stores, and more. Izuku mouth watered when the aroma of delicacies being served to the customers, and he shook his head knowing he can't buy anything unless he earns his own money. At least, being the writer keeps you alive. Like no starvation, thirst, sleep. Izuku doesn't need any of those, but can have if he wants to. His sleep works like a switch, can sleep or wake in a second, and he can even see good dreams if wished deeply. The eating part is same as normal people. Eat or not, he won't feel any difference other than enjoying the taste of food. Izuku didn't mind, and being the writer, things like this did not affect him anymore. As he was enjoying his fun walk, he stopped outside a pet shop with so many glass aquariums are on the display outside. Many color fishes elegantly swimming around the wide aquarium, and Izuku found the golden fish more beautiful. And he walked closer and admired the beauty of them closely. He then felt the jealousy of his pet raven, who probably felt its beloved master caring for other pets. Izuku bit down the urge to laugh loud at his pet. Kodachi now high up in the sky taking a stroll around the areas and eliminate bad guys. Kodachi is as fast as the light if not more faster, and can end a sinner's life before they knows it. However, like Izuku instructed, Kodachi always starts with limps and let the sinners die in agony. Letting his raven do the job, Izuku enjoyed his free day. A free day until some villains do anything wrong. Can't let Kodachi overwork. Taking in the beautiful view of the elegant swimmers, Izuku stood tall and was about to leave. He stopped and stared at the thing attracted his interest. Walking closer, he looks at the poster, with the headline imprinted on top, UA School Sports Festival 2013. Izumi School, the dream school he always dreamed of attending. The school All Might graduated and became a great hero. UAS this year's sports festival is so earlier, and he always was a fan of it since his childhood. Interesting. Izuku mumbles, convinced. Izumi has permission granted to visit her mother and even do practice outside. But every offer here comes with its own terms and conditions. Nezu wasn't slightly pleased by the idea of Izumi roaming around the city of her own, and surprisingly, he assigned an arguably unnecessary bodyguard along with her fellow classmates. Not all, but all the girls. And next comes their bodyguard, who was bored as hell enough, agreed to come with them. The R-rated pro hero Midnight. She was free that day since all the other class years got already their lessons covered, and she was a numb football on a chair all the day. She once again felt more alive. Aburo Shirakumo gave her enough concerns, and she made herself believe her long-lost friend is gone. She was forgetting it thankfully, and Aizawa and Present Mike gladly approved her choice and did not bring up anything in front of her. With all going on, Izumi didn't care much. Even she's so glad to introduce her friends to her mother. You guys have no idea. Mom Katsuden is the best there is, Izumi proudly stated with smoldering gesture. Other girls gulped at the thought. After hearing Izumi, they so badly want to take a bowl full of Inko food items. She that much praised her mother. I can't wait, Mina exclaimed. Me too, Ira chirped, and Sue agreed. Me 3, Toru cheered. I'll ask for a full recipe note if you're okay with it, Momo politely said. Sure, Mom would love sharing her ideas. Her recipes are not so complicated, but the food you can make with it is outstanding, Izumi said, huffing proudly. Midnight, who walking with them in a normal and less revealing outfit, with sparkly eyes, admired the interaction between the modern teenagers and did even chatted, joked, laughed with them like they are childhood friends. Midnight can't believe she ended up being their friend even though being their teacher. The sidewalk wasn't as populated like few minutes ago as they turned to another route, and they keep joking and talking until Midnight spotted something. A green light zooming past to the streets, diving behind a building. Midnight-sensei, something wrong? Yura asked. Midnight snapped out of her trance and shook her head. I thought I saw something. Don't worry, she lied, intending to keep them calm. Last thing she wants is to lead them into a mess. At least she told them to not worry. Because the next second, hell broke loose when they heard an ear-splitting scream of pain, startling bystanders, with them no exception. Izumi and her friends froze on the spot, and Midnight panicked slightly. These kids are my responsibility. Sure as hell I keep them safe, she thought, but was too late. Izumi already took off to the place, followed by her friends. Hey, come back here. Wait, Midnight shouted, but to no avail. She groaned audibly and pursuing them. The racer was right. These kids are problem children, she thought, and ran faster. Crossing road, they almost ran over by vehicles multiple times, but didn't mind that much. Izumi wasn't sure of her choice, nor thinking clearly. Pain screams somehow makes her protective demeanor activate. Moving on with her brother's death would have affected her possibly. Hell, even she almost ran into action to save All Might at USJ. Everything else going on goes over her head when this happens. What are we even doing? Yura shouted, unknowingly following her best friend. Honestly, will it sound crazy when I tell? I don't know. Izumi shouted back. Why am I even running? As the vice rep, shouldn't I stop you guys? Momo shouted to herself. You asking us, genius? Mina teases. Gyro was barely even catching up with them, and they turned a corner leads to back streets. Thinking of even coming here at one good normal day seemed like a foolish thought, because why on earth someone sane do want to have a walk around these creepy dark parts? Midnight eventually caught up with them and was about to stop them, but they beat Midnight into it. Izumi was the first who halted, making others bump into her, almost making her fall, but thankfully kept her balance. What they saw was familiar, kinda used to. But still, they are terrified, unable to calm their nerves at the said familiar sight. The scene unfolded before them was no normal stuff you can see anywhere other than the crime scene. Green flame appeared. First they saw were ashes, and then few limbless living bodies, crying in agony, and then there is the inflictor of pain, the one who attacked them, and it wasn't what they expected to see. The same hellish-looking bird, Green Flame has. The Hellfire Raven. Like a hawk, it circles the scene few feet up in the air. Midnight stalked in front of the students to defend in case. She can't even order them to run without it hearing them. A bird or not, threat is a threat. The exception of the situation is, this is not a normal bird. It belongs to the one and only Green Flame. Midnight released her sleeping gas, hoping to knock it out and hand it over to police. They have ways of dealing stuff like this. Breathing in the gas, the living limbless villains fell asleep, and finally it envelopes around the bird. That's right, she mumbled victoriously, 100% sure the bird won't struggle anymore. Izumi and others sighed in breath of relief, thinking Midnight has it under control. But their eyes widened when nothing really happened, as Kodachi just flapped its blade wings and looking at them with its fiery eyes. Soon it flapped its wings so fast, kicking away the sleeping gas which merged with the oxygen. Cover your nose. Don't smell it. Midnight shouted at the students, who complied. Taking that time, Kodachi did his remaining job of ending the villains. To do things quick, the bird flapped its wings again, freeing the black blade like feathers, sending it like projectiles with green hellflame covers it. Almost 5 alive but knocked out villains. And Kodachi was smart enough to precisely aim and keep the numbers of the feathers as the villains. Midnight, with her quick reflexes, reaches back her belt, pulling out her brown whip. The feathers were fast, and Midnight barely could wrap the whip around the nearest villain, pulling him back just in time when the other 4 feathers made contact with the villain, making their body burst like a firecracker before crumble into ashes. But they saw the feathers were fine and hovered above the ashes, now pointed straight at the remaining villain wrapped up. Seeing the fire blade feathers, Izumi activates her psychic, surrounding the purple energy around the 5 blade feathers, rendering their movements temporarily useless. Acid shower, Mina shouted, doing a roundhouse hick on the air, and few big splatters of acid being thrown out of her shoe at the feathers. Thankfully, her attack wasn't in vain. Well, for making contact with the target, that is. They stood there dumbfounded when the metal melting acid did nothing to the feathers. The acid immediately was alight with green hellflame, and the last evidence of the liquid was the vapor in the end. Momo intelligence was excellent, but making quick decisions at times like this weren't so easy for her. So she created a metal staff that stood there in case. At least she thought. The staff is useful, in reality it's not. And Gyro saw her uneasy look and sighed. She bring down her cable-like earlobe, plugged in with the speakers on her boots. Guys, move, she instructed, and the others didn't question and move out of the way just as the sound waves got produced and hit both psychic-covered feathers and Kodachi. The sound waves did a roll of a miniature storm, almost destroying everything on the way. The sudden force messed up Kodachi's balance, but it still was hovering. Izumi focus soon lost, and they didn't even knew as one feather sneaks around them when they have their full attention, either on the bird or covering ears. The fight ended when the remaining villain got stabbed by the feather, turning him just ashes. Just like it got released, the feathers turned back to the bird wings. Kodachi soon enough left the scene in a green flash. So you mean you aren't as powerful before? Mirio spoke, not believing what he heard as he holding a strand of blonde hair with his fingers. The great All Might strength actually doesn't belong to him. Yeah, great. Now he's wondering which side he woke up on. Hearing the truth behind One for All is like a fiction. Yes, Mirio, my boy. As Nine-Eye assistant and a worthy successor, I choose you to inherit the power of the One for All. To be the number one and the one who destined to beat the powerful vigilante and villains. So our society could take in a breath of relief. 2 pro-heroes perished as the first warning, it seems. They could only retrieve ashes in the name of their remains. Authority had no options but to spread false news saying, another set of villains found dead. At first, society bought the lies. However, the witnesses popped the balloon of mysteries, and in the end, police were forced upon the title of liars. At this point, people don't care about authorities anymore. Obsession towards the number one somehow blinded them and supports the secretly cautious man, who spent his time mostly on training his destined successor, Mirio Tagata, the third-year student, possibly the future number one, with or without One for All. The harsh truth society yet to know is that even if he could put an end to Green Flame misdeeds, the fight is not over there. Deep in his heart he knew, even if he wins against the Vigilante, his reign of as the unbeatable All Might will come to an end. 1 hour a day, the longest time limitation of being the pro-hero. Per day, 1 minute lessons from the said power. And after he could not continue, Mirio is there to be replaced as spotlight. There are millions relying on him. And All Might promised himself that either of him or Mirio will bring Green Flame to the bright light of justice and say again, don't worry, I'm here. After all this time, All Might finally gave that catchphrase to his successor, so people see him as the hero they grew up loving. And All Might will make sure the infamous Green Flame put behind bars until he learns the pain of his victims. Sure, they were villains, but you're not a true hero if you choose the path of murder over rescue. Heroes only sacrifice themselves in order to help people keep their smile and thought of the safety. By killing 2 good heroes, Green Flame did the most unforgivable act, and All Might as well as the entire pro-hero community won't be thinking twice or hesitate to confront him or arrest him. All Might knew Green Flame's strength can be overwhelming, but he has faith in his successor and fellow heroes and himself. If they fight together, not only Green Flame, but the whole existence of the bad beings are powerless against them. Green Flame always hides, never seen outside except for few cases, and All Might believes the Vigilante has weaknesses too. Thinking up storms in his brain, All Might overly thought all that. The hero community pummeling the Vigilante to the strength of his and Mirio. The complicity of Mirio's own quirk, Mirio mastered it and was becoming somewhat stronger. And with the addition of One for All, Mirio will be the stronger version of himself. Sure, All Might couldn't defeat the Nomu. He believes Mirio is more than capable and could have destroyed the Nomu. Staring at the screen of his computer, All Might thought all that in a reassuring manner, convincing himself, saying, Green Flame won't stand a chance. But still though, it did not quite sound realistic. He doesn't know why. But little did he knew, his beliefs are false. The reassurance sounded more hollow than ever. People's support won't let him lose to Green Flame. Or his successor will surely beat Green Flame. Not only the Vigilante, Mirio will beat the negativity itself. Nobody can't stop Mirio, right? All Might breathing trembled. Why does it feels like he's lying to himself? Shrugging off, he focused on the computer screen and video call with the pro-heroes gathered around the big table. Due to his minor health conditions, All Might could not attend the meeting, so he chose video call as a solution. Committed over almost 500, 700, who knows how many murders. On top of that, we have no end where we could grasp on. He's traveling literally in a motorcycle and few of you said it was loud. Then how come we cannot pinpoint his location? Rocklock snapped. We have enough enforcements, but I'm saying, we're not utilizing any of it. Egoism works but not here. Call for backup or something. If you see him, that is. Gran Torino comments. Egoism? What the point of that term here? One of the local heroes scoffed. You're referring us. By the way, who are you anyways? All Might knows you, he said. Another insulted the aging but more experienced hero. I am Gran Torino, former mentor of All Might. But can I ask you, why are we getting into details? I thought our duty matters the most. There is interval where we could introduce one another. And to the point, we are after this Green Flame individual, believed to commit murders with no exception of hero or villain. No recorded patterns on his crimes, nor witnesses other than few heroes, some students, possibly the survivors. We're dealing with a threat. If not, we must have talked more personally, Gran Torino said with glare at the local hero, who felt creeps and sunk on his seat. Whatever, this egoism you're bragging, at least explain us why you said that. A female pro-hero demanded. Scratching his beard, Gran Torino sighed and looked at Endeavor mainly. Egoism, self-awareness. More like overconfidence. When you work on yourself because your pride won't let you ask for help or backup. No direct insults, just a friendly note I picked up. Gran Torino explains, and few groaned annoyed while few understood what the old man said. All Might distinctively watched it all unfolds on the computer screen. His lack of physical presence greatly affecting the meeting, and he could only do very much. Well, that's sorted. How are we capturing this green flame? Kamui asked, who sat between an annoyed-looking Mirko and bored Mount Lady. Mirko was really mad and trying her best to calm down. She did try to at least get lead on green flame within a week. Her attempts were fruitless sadly, even after spending 70% of her work time. Mirko so far could only see a green light at a distance. When she got there, all there was the remains of Sharkbite, a newbie hero who was so full of himself, arrogant and dick, but still died cause of no actual reason. Pretty much their meeting going downhill with each passing minute. Who the hell even called these immature newbie heroes here anyways? Lure him out or something. I'm out of ideas. Another local hero said like saying a joke. Hey, why don't leave it to All Might and Endeavor? In that way, we'll see who's better. Green Flame or Endeavor. People these days are after the related memes, I'll say. The hero insulted Gran Torino spoke with a grin. What the hell? Mirko ears twitches in anger and abruptly stood up, slamming her fist of the thick table, shattering a small portion. You think it's funny? People are dying and we're in middle of fucking unknown territory of some damned vigilante. And you, Mirko shouted, leaping up, landing on top the table, and takes a handful of his hero costume and pull him closer harshly to make eye contact. And you, treating it all like joke. Who the hell knows who dies next at this point? It could be even you. She yelled, shove him away and taking her seat. The hero was trembling but continues his tough act. Mirko is right, Midnight said with her arms crossed. Everyone looks at her knowing there's more. Midnight looks at them and at Tsukachi and nodded at him. Tsukachi nodded, standing up, and looks at everyone including the tablet screen where he can see All Might face. To start with, this information shows us something more than what we were looking for. Yesterday, Midnight and few of her students had an encounter. Wait, you saw that vigilante? Then why didn't you said that sooner? The local hero screams, taking his anger on Midnight and instantly regretted it. One look from her was enough to shut him up. Others looks at the hero irritated and he huffed, looking away. Please don't interrupt. Midnight and students did not see the vigilante at the scene, but the one who's killing the villains is his pet bird. Midnight said it resembles a crow or something. Tsukachi said, sitting down. A raven, but abnormally stronger and bigger than a regular bird. Truth to be told, the bird was acting on its own. Armed with blade-like feathers, ability to create shockwaves, wind, and manipulate the green fire on its body. Flies with speed of lights. It can release its feathers and use it as a flying knife. That bird was completely immune to my quirk and did even withstand our powers easily with no limit. And the last thing it did before fleeing was strike those limbless villains with its blade feathers and turning them into toshes. Midnight described. The room was silent. All eyes wide and mouths agape, and looks at her as if she's crazy. But they saw only truth in her eyes. No lies, no jokes, complete, genuine, and serious. That means what? A local hero dumbly asked. It means it's possible that threat is right above our heads and we didn't even know. Ed Shot said in his usual low tone. I mean, not that. You're saying that, after you attacking it with all you got, and you couldn't even do a scratch on it? The local hero asked, jumping off of his seat. Everyone looks at Midnight for confirmation. She nodded slowly. They were shocked even more. A strong, experienced pro hero along with her strong students against a fucking bird belongs to their current target, and they lost against one simple bird. If that's true, then how strong is this green flame guy? You lost to a bird, and how you think there's a fucking chance of beating its owner? Huh. Is he strong as you say he is, or he's even stronger? The local hero was going crazy, but he had a good question there. But sadly nobody could answer that. All Might sighed as they bickered back and forth, and everyone suddenly stopped talking as they saw Endeavor standing up infuriated. Without a word, he walks to the door. Where are you going? Mirko asked her temporary partner in Find the Green Flame mission. To find the vigilante. I refuse to waste my time here with talking with bunch of brain deads. I'll deal with it, unlike someone who's beaten by a brainless thing. He says and leaves the room. Come back, Todoroki. Gran Torino called, but no avail. The number 2 already left, possibly to his place in hell. Tsukachi looks at the ruckus and at Midnight. Wait, you said limbless villains, right? As in similar to Coast Facility incident, and Green Flame's bird did all that? He questions, silencing everyone. Midnight shook her head. I don't know what part of the crime Green Flame is part of. Either his bird does what he does, or the bird itself was behind the deformed bodies. Yesterday, we were too late to even begin with. Half of the villains dead and the rest was, like I said, had limbs cut off. Midnight answered. The fear was evident in their eyes. Until this point of their long or short careers, this is the first time they are dealing with someone who's mysterious, dangerous, and unstoppable. Hell, they couldn't even find the man, let alone arrest him. Until now, only Aizawa encountered Green Flame more than once. But like everyone gathered here, he's as lost as they are. Everything about Green Flame is weird and unsolvable. Like how he's everywhere at all once. Was he that fast? Does he even has a weakness? Or what's his identity? Where did he even come from? What was that green fire pillar? What's the extent of his quirk? Is there even limits of his quirk? What is his quirk? Many questions, zero answers. Even though people are dying while we speak, the lookouts out there still couldn't spot the Vigilante. Either he's a master trickster or we're looking for at the wrong angle. Gran Torino spoke. I searched long enough, but I was always late. When I spotted a green glow far distance, the next second it's gone. That alone incident proves finding him is not impossible. We should beef up heroes on patrol or, pretend to be a civilian and secretly investigate or something. Mirko said out of the blue. Excellent idea, Mirko. I'll have my men just do that. Sukachi said. Others nodded and the arrogant local hero scoffed. Okay, good plan, and just pretend we found him, then what? He asked. Gran Torino sighed. That's where the egoism part comes in. Do not think twice or act on your own. All you gotta do is call for backup. He explained. Even that does not go smoothly, we have All Might. He can beat Green Flame easily, right? A woman said, looking at the tablet screen, seeing the smiling All Might. Only they knew. Who are they dealing with? Izumi was like both nervous and joyful, because the upcoming sports festival, which is tomorrow. In front of millions of people, UA students perform and show them what the future heroes are capable of. After yesterday's events, Izumi practiced more than ever, and within few hours, surprisingly, she felt the difference of using her psychic beyond its limits. Migraines were still there, but her body was continuously being improving, and her body doesn't pale anymore like it used to be. Well, not so much like before. Her body would give out eventually, though, but still improved whatsoever. While thinking about yesterday, after fighting with the fire bird, they visited her house, ate and had fun while Midnight was on her phone, probably conversing about the incident, and later on, they forced Midnight to take them for a walk around the big mall. The older woman had no choice but to agree. Izumi never missed the sadness on her mother's eyes meeting her friends. Izuku's absence still affecting the woman, and Izumi noticed it. If Izuku was never gone, who knows, maybe he would have loved meeting all her friends and make friends with them. But the reality never ceases to hurt you. And Izumi thought of what they say. You'll never know its value until it's gone. Sadly though, in all Izuku's lifetime, he was more it than a him. To others, that is. Visiting her mom. Bring back painful memories where the wounds are still fresh and painful. After all, Izuku was the best thing happened to her. In her rebellious stage, he was there as a light to lead her the path and remind her of that promise she, Bakugo, and Izuku made long ago. Now she have a purpose, but had a good brother. It's all memories, wishes, or whatever. Izumi still dreamed of them together. True, she forgot the dreams, but she remembers she had that dream. Shaking her head, Izumi walked to her class, and before entering the class, she told herself to do her scheduled training after the class. Tomorrow gonna be a stepping stone to the bright future. At least she wants it as bright as not so blinding. Blinding light of money and fame. No, she wants the light where she can grasp it and show it to the people in dark and show them their destined way. The light which has the healing, calming nature. When she shows it to a troubled individual, they feel safe afterward. Opening her classroom, she saw all her friends, exception of few who are still at dorms, sitting across their usual seats chatting with other. Ami, hey. Izumi heard Mina shout her name. Looking at Mina, Izumi spotted a rather funny sight. A beet red Uraraka sitting at her seat with other girls around her. Wait, why is she blushing? On some occasions, Izumi blushes too, and by the look on Yura's face shows her embarrassment. But why? Shrugging, the green-haired girl walks up to them with a questioning look. Come on, spill the beans, Yura. Toru jumps up and down. Yes, tell us, why? Jiru butted in. Uraraka shook her head and no, visibly trembling. What going on? Izumi wondered. Well, we're at the same track. Machako daydreaming all the way to class. Her face is red. First we thought, she's having a fever, but her temperature is normal, Momo said. On top of that, she's freaking out when we asked, she's alright or not? Mina added. Izumi nodded and looks at Yura, who nervously giggles at them. Guys, I'm alright. See, Uraraka stuttered, flexing her arms, desperation evident in her attempts. Izumi looks closer at the gravity girl and sighed when it clicked her. She having crush on someone, I think, she said. Well, she was in love with one boy at her middle school. And by the way, Uraraka freaking out and blushing. That's the only explanation Izumi can come up with. By hearing that, all the girls had mixture of reactions, and Uraraka almost choked on her spit and her cheeks turned even more redder. No, Uraraka flailed her hands in denial, and other girls gave each other a knowing look. So who's he? Izumi asked playfully, making the poor girl a stuttering mess. Is he hot? Mina asked, smirking. Is he cute and sexy? Toru nudges her shoulder. Uraraka facepalmed, squealing in pure shyness and embarrassment. Momo gasped, taking that as a confirmation. Being their big sis figure, she didn't tease Yura, instead was so happy for her. Sue and Jiru giggles at what they saw. The blonde boy few feet away from them growled, really irritated. "Shut up, nerds. My brain hot wiring here. Damn it," Bakugo yelled, interrupting them. Uraraka was thankful though. "You got brain. That's a new discovery." Izumi insulted out loud. Kirishima, Kaminari and Shiro paused their chat and puffed their cheeks in an attempt not to laugh but failed. Bakugo eyes twitched. "Shut up or else I kill you damn extras." During the little distraction, Uraraka sighed a breath of relief but knew the girls will corner her at some point. She can't help but feel her face heat up the thought. What happened yesterday did this to her. Flashback. Achako stood there watching people pass by at the crowded mall and she was looking around for directions. Sadly, all of them split up at some point to mind their own shopping and Midnight wasn't thinking straight and sent an affirmative on their request. By the time she realized, it was too late. Achako sighed, not knowing what to do anymore. Sure, she got so many shops to visit and explore the place but still have to fight her urges to not buy anything out of her range, which worth few yen of her pocket money. With you can buy some ice cream and a hair clip. She won't admit it to her friends that she's more poor than any of them. The possible outcome of Momo of all people heard her pocket money are crap. Then the big girl would at least spend a money worth of buying a shop for her. Uraraka knew Momo don't see others any lower and sympathize with them. It's just in her nature believing. Spending so much money for others makes them happy. At this point, Uraraka won't be surprised if Momo doing anything charity related. Uraraka stopped in front of an ice cream shop, buying a strawberry-flavored cone and licked it while moving forward. The sight somehow was wonderful, and she had many questions which was unanswered. But that's okay. Walking around a bit, Uraraka just in time finished her ice cream, because next thing she saw was a hard chest coming and crashing against her face. Uraraka stiffens on the spot, unable to do anything else. Her body felt like sparks running all over her body and heating up her body as a different but wonderful smell of something good fills her senses, and she accidentally breathes in the aroma more. Like flowers. Not any flowers, but green glowing flowers somehow got visible in her head as she breathed in the beautiful smell. She was froze like a statue, unable to move or back away from whoever or whatever she ran into. Her face burned and could feel herself blushing up a storm. What's happening? She thought, and subconsciously clung on the fabric of the person hoodie. She gulped and breathed in some air, which was also the smell, as she slowly backed away shakily and shut close her eyes. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. She frantically forms words as she rapidly bowed. Uraraka was ready to take an earful from the stranger. After all, she put herself in the embarrassing situation herself. She's ready to hear the stranger's yell and complaints. At least she won't be surprised if the person do not take it easy on her. But what take her by surprise is no slap to the face, no insults, no angry screaming. But she heard what she thought the least she'll hear, an amused chuckle from the stranger. His chuckle was so soft and tender that her heart felt a small caressing. His voice is so melodic and beautiful, and Uraraka blushed even more when she realized. She literally sniffed a boy and hugged him even. "No worries. Wow, a UA student, huh?" the male voice asked, taking her breath away. Panicking, Achako couldn't even speak properly, earning another chuckle from the stranger. She slowly looked up at the figure face and gasped, seeing his hooded head, and she could only see two emerald-piercing eyes which resembled the flowers she saw when smelling his scent. Her breath caught in her throat as she looks at the godly green eyes like she saw something that nobody ever saw. She stuttered and slapped a hand over her mouth. "Hey, you're Uraraka Achako, right? Did I juice correct?" he asked. Achako eyes widened. How a handsome stranger knows her name. And why is she calling him handsome when she can't even see his face? She have no idea. Who? Yes, I'm Achako. How do you know me? She asked nervously. The figure giggles and lowered his hoodie, exposing his good-looking face and white fluffy hair. Uraraka eyes widened seeing him, and her face got even more red. "I saw your cute face on the news, and good luck at the sports festival. I'll support you, okay," he said. And the cute part accidentally slipped his mouth, but was true. He found her so cute and beautiful. However, he wasn't shy, though. He isn't an awkward person anymore. He looks at the girl his age but was so small compared to his height of being the rider. She's so different. Wants money. That's only the reason she wanna be a hero. But still, her soul is pure, because she doesn't want any of the money. It's all the sake of her struggling and great parents. She wants to help everyone with no greediness, willing to do anything to see others smile. He thought as a strange feeling tugged his heart. She's something else. Thanks, she said shyly. She had to say that. He looks familiar. But with so much going on her mind, she didn't care for it much. Izuku reaches out for a handshake, which she shakily took and smiled politely up at him. She saw the twinkle in those beauty-called eyes of his as his hand clasped with hers. Electric spark ran all over their body as they shook their hands. Izuku knew she's meant more to him now, and he will figure it out later. "Call me Deku," he introduced himself without even knowing. She's really got in his head, and vice versa. Uraraka nodded and heard her phone ringing. Momo was calling and said it's the time to leave. Nice to meet you, Deku, but I gotta go, she said and felt the longing in her heart already. Izuku smiled and they looked at each other's eyes and smiling. See you later, beautiful, Izuku said, and she almost screamed when she called her that. See you. With that they parted ways, and still looking back to see one another. Uraraka didn't knew that. She's the girl conquered the Ghost Rider heart. Sky screamed with war cry of thunder in the rainstorm that day. Uneventful, sickeningly horrid day. Sky, with blinding lighting strikes at the far distance as the earth cooling to a temperature that's bone-chilling, towed ahead. As if crying in despair and sadness, raindrops drenched and gave a rather uncomfortable chills on top of the pain, and bruises forming their small bodies, matching the glory of pouring rain. A little green-haired boy nose dripped of red liquid which did not hurt the poor soul as his heart was aching, as if red-hot metal rode melting through slowly in his numbing heart. The heart itself was fragile than a delicate piece of porcelain. No, fragile as in a thin layer of glass that can be shattered on touch. Bleeding nose. His tears matches the flow of raindrops merging with the fresh water, and even the reddish nosebleed turned more pinkish upon contact of higher quantity of water. That day was worse, dealing with 3 most devastating blows on his innocent breaking heart, with the last blow still happening before him. The first blow, which struck unexpectedly, but the pain never came though. The numbness did prevent any feeling at all. The first blow was the one that changed his normal life upside down. The truth of being the one belongs to useless 20% of the population. The harsh reality of being the quirkless. She thought better of her brother, encouraged him but maintained her distance because of how she was before. The little boy stood there crying, already dealing with his second and third blows. Second being his favorite idol Kaken outburst of hearing the betraying words of her little brother. The 3 of them swore to one another. They will become heroes no matter what extent they has to go, in order to taste their achievements in the end after surpassing all might. But that promise midway broke when the little garbage Deku turned out quirkless. With nothing to do and feeling betrayed and enraged, Kaken first time gone physical on her little brother that day. She saw him stumble on wet grass, miscalculating each steps lead him faceplanting on the ground again and again, desperately trying to reach the 2 precious people of his life, now fighting and on verge of breaking their friendship. She stood there watching as the 2 small figures similar to her little brother, rolling around, landing punches, scratches, kicks on each other's already busted up body, spitting blood and saliva as their teeth clenches visibly. Tears falling, 2 sets of each other's eyes matching the green-haired boy. A clear picture of pain, anger, and sadness they emerges with each punches and kicks they exchanged. That being said, that's the 3rd blow of the harsh reality the green-haired boy enduring, seeing his sister and Kaken hurting one another. Izumi's eyes was bloodshot red watching the 3 figures unable to erase, prevent, or stop the overwhelming memories as it occurred before her, and the ability to talk seems impossible here, since a bounds of something strange coiled, securing her body solid still, forcing her to rewatch the scene which constantly replays like a video player. Standing 5 feet in distance, her heart broke seeing how much her little brother reaching for them fearfully. The fear of losing one another, love and trust, forgetting his own pain. This was the day the green-haired boy suffered the pain of dislocated shoulder and broken collarbone. Wailing, inch by inch, Izumi saw her little brother begging for them to stop and hurt him instead. After all, Izumi had a place of ruining the situation further when she stepped between the 2 boys. In a minute, the best friends are the worst enemy. Blood was everywhere when Katsuki threw the small girl off of him. Please, Kaken, I'm so. Izumi saw her little brother crawling to Katsuki's feet, begging to punish him and at least don't hate his sister. Katsuki's lips trembled, chin fumbled, kicking the already hurt little Deku, anger evident every second and malice shone clearly in those red teary orbs as he stared down at the weak boy. I hate you, Deku. I hate her. From now on you're always beneath me, damn Deku. You're always gonna be a weakling. A damn burden. I hate you, little Katsuki yelled, wiping his eyes to get rid of tears and rainwater. We're heroes. Our past is our burden. When we save people, hide that burden with a smile. Now she knew the meaning of the burden part. Little Deku, however, crawled to his Kaken, begging for forgiveness. Forgiveness for being weak and quirkless. That confession torn apart their relationship, leaving all the 3 hurt and sad. Izumi watches as her little self tackling Kaken to the group, throwing punches with her bruised, rather heavy hands. Katsuki cried louder, using explosion on her stomach, but was weak, which was enough to kick her away. On their favorite playground surrounded in white rose place, their short journey began after all the games they play. Hide and seek and Alland in the end. The journey unfortunately ended the exact same place, where they used to have to laugh and smile. Now there's no joy, laugh, smile, just grief, pain and anger. The scene replayed again and again and stopped at the already seen sight. Kaken slapped little Izumi's face and ran away with fierce and sad eyes. Hugging Izu, little Izumi sat while their wounds cooling down under the bone-chilling cold of the raindrops which harshly slapped their sore broken skin, stinging but faintly. Little Deku cried out his heart's content. with no physical but mental pain. Forget him, friends don't hurt their besties. Little Izumi sniffles. Izuku winced. The sudden line escaped little Izumi lips for him was horrible and unacceptable. Deku heart was the purest sea where his dreams, beliefs, love, trust, and determination was infinite. In that blue sea, his kaken, sister, motherthy were always belongs on top and the most prioritized people. Where he's a tiny goldfish, and he see them as the elegant and precious mermaids or king and queens. That's why Izuku never give up on them, knowing they'll eventually give up on himself. That's not true. Our kaken won't hate us, Ami. His broken pain voice encouraged her. After all, her crush crushed their friendship because her little brother was weak and quirkless, belongs nowhere but beneath the spot of a dying dog, unable to correct or interfere with the memories. Big Izumi stood there, cannot believe she once thought that of Izuku as more inferior than a dying dog. She did think of that long ago. Tell yourself that, Deku. Little Izumi spat using his nickname, which means useless nobody. Little Izumi was infuriated and depressed, and she was feeling relief after snapping at her little brother, who gave her a sad smile. Always that sweet smile, hiding his suffering and pain, and comfort and make others smile. In the end, that smile no longer shining brighter. As if blind, little Izumi never took easy on him. Even when she interfered, did she believe the fault was Izuku? However, anger towards Katsuki made the receiving end of her physicality, the blonde rather than her little brother. Having crush on an angry Pomeranian, little did explained why should not, after exchanging blows, inflict wounds upon the other. The fight started when Izuku's shoulder dislocated and Izumi was going to reasoning with the blonde. Sadly, he insulted and pushed her away. With anger towards both boys, Izumi found herself neither supporting both overly, but she hugged Izuku, knowing that's the only way her mood would cool down, despite her being slightly calm. Little Izuku's comment did not help at all, pushing her anger to the surface yet again. That's the reason the nickname slipped out her mouth, but like she's feeling, she did not felt regret or guilt. The rebellious stage of her life began that day. Bound to the invisible binds, Big Izumi had tears flowing. At least she thought it did. But the tears never came as she watched her past self ripping away from a sobbing little Deku, who screamed in agony at the harsh shove, which hurt his already dislocated shoulder and broken collarbone. You wish that jerk would return. Just forget it already. It's over. Her shout followed by a thunderclap, loud enough to scare Izuku more. Please, Ami, are you mad at me? Can't we try? His barely audible voice cut off as her teary emerald eyes shot up to look at him and her chin and lips fumbled due to the cold and as well as due to gritting her teeth harder. It's over, I said. It's over, you fool. Don't come home whining like that. She spat without thinking and then realized the effects of her word having on him by just looking his eyes. Shutting her eyes close, little Izumi backed away, about to turn and run. While wait, he croaked, trying to reach out for her. Little Izumi didn't spare a glance, sprinting away, limping time to time, leaving her weak little brother who was in pain. Izumi looks down at the sobbing bundle, longing, staring at the way his big sister ran off without a care for him. But he believes that she never didn't mean it and forgave her eventually. The little green-haired boy turns to look at the grown-up version of Izumi and gave her a reassuring smile, trying to hide his pain. Izumi wants to run up, crouch next to him and snuggle the poor boy closer. She wanted to cry and beg for forgiveness for what her immature self did. The struggle in the end was pointless though. Her body was frozen solid. Her emerald eyes looks at his teary ones and then his precious smile that comforted her even in the worst pain he's enduring in his life. He smiles and shook his head. Don't hate her, he started, referring her little self, and she knew what his next words will be, because she made him believe what he's gonna say next. I was the one that's not good enough. Then the entire scene turned blank under the nothingness of the black void, the void she believed to be her heart. Ashamed and mad at her doings, she reached to punish herself, but her body never cooperates. She was still frozen solid, suffering by her own words that lingered the void. But she and here Izuku too. Even in her nightmares, he's a little angel to rescue, while her own past self played the role of a demon. In short, even in her wildest of dreams, Izuku never hated her. The next moment she saw via a small opening little Izumi going back the same day after the rain stopped, with Inko besides her as they got closer to an unconscious little boy. That was an evening time. Inko got on her knees, scooping up the small boy, and looked worriedly at little Izumi, who played with the hem of her skirt. Thank God, that villain didn't see you kids hiding, Inko said, smiling relieved. After all, for Inko the three kids were running away from a villain attack and got separated. A lie. Little Izumi come up with, afraid of her mother getting mad at what happened in reality. Then again the scene changed continuously as she saw each and everything Izuku and she gone through. Him sharing his ice cream too. He convincing her to chase down her forgotten dreams, to be the #1 hero. After all that, there's a promise. I promise, in your hard work, no burden comes your path. The little boy always believed that he's a burden because of her misdeeds, her mistakes. He started to believe he's a worthless Deku from that day. utter silence that lacks the comforts, exposing herself to the uncomfortable void of darkness. Little did she knew, the void was her regrets, guilt, and lost arrogance. Everything that's not a good thing about her can be matched to the never-ending void. Never-ending, due to the fact that she blames and hates herself. To remove the curse of darkness is to believe she at least did some good things and forgive herself. Unlike walk in the park, that single matter is complicated for her. Izumi's body has this feeling of drenching in sweat, muscles giving out, body shaking, tears rolling. The exception there is, those were just feelings. Physically, she was frozen solid, waiting for another memory that unwillingly crept through her mind, and like a projector, the pictures flashed in front of her. Pictures fastened up, becoming more of a video. Red envelopes the dark void the next second, red being the symbol of her loss, the color of pure blood. The blood she saw on the exact place Izuku's life taken away from him. This time the memory was gruesome enough, as well as the reminder of the day. The tough, arrogant bitch Izumi finally broke down, wailing and screaming as the adults closed the lid of a familiar casket. A casket where her little brother resting, eyes closed. That day, sun never has its shine. The shine that goes pale if Izuku smiles even brighter. Izumi's heart clenched, knowing there's no way she could ever see that smile again. The smile cured their depressed hearts. Izumi watches as she saw as her past self and family members attending Izuku's funeral. She watched them dropping handful of sand on top of the closed casket, the final procedure before the burial. That day the sunshine got trapped under 6 feet of the earth, sleeping peacefully. Is he in peace? After all this time, she wished to know that. Izumi so badly wanted to cry or fall on her knees and beg for forgiveness. But knowing Izuku, he'll be heartbroken if he ever saw her in that situation. He wanted them happy. Be a hero for me, will ya? She remembered one of his last words back at school. Another reason she wanted to so badly become a hero. Sadly, she cannot believe in herself. Izumi, eyes dazed, stared around in hopes of escaping out of here. She cannot tolerate any more of this self-harm, but knew she deserved it. But then finally her eyes adjusted on a small boy standing there facing away from her. Izuku, the 4-year-old Izuku. Unable to talk, she prayed for God to make him look at her. She did expect a hateful and ghostly expression on his face, showing his distaste and disgust to see his horrible big sister. However, her eyes widen the size of a saucer as he looks around and then looks back facing her. The reaction she was expecting never came. But his big green eyes grew a size of a melon and sparkled as he ran at her and ran around her like he saw an amusement park for the first time. Wow, wow, wow. His tiny voice squeaked and he finally came to a stop. What the hell? She was confused by his response. Does he ever get mad? Wow, Ami, you look so cool. I want to borrow that cape already. Like a bouncy ball, he jumps on and down. She can't believe what she heard. And then she noticed her wearing her hero costume. Not her normal one, but the same costume Izuku drawn for her long time ago. The one with flashy red cape. Izuku gave her a toothy grin, full of admiration, like he was seeing All Might on her. You know, I so badly want to join you, Ami. But seeing you now, give others my favorite line for me. You know that best line, do not worry, because I am here. Izuku said happily and mimicked All Might. Seemed to realize how bad his mimicking was, Izuku giggled at himself. Izumi, watching that giggle, forgot all the worries for a sec and smiled, breaking free of her statue-like state. But before she could move towards him, the small boy looks back and sighed. Mama in trouble, gotta go save her, he said, puffing, and acted like a miniature All Might and took off. Izumi watched him go with a smile on her face, knowing he was playing All Might game with her mother. He's silly. She unknowingly giggles only to freeze again. Looking the way he ran off, she shouted to come back. Sadly, after encouraging her yet again, the Izuku on her dream vanished again, saving her again from her own dark past. Wait, please, come back, she said, running after him, but midway her legs gave out. Expected pain never came though. Jolting awake, almost screaming, a startled Uraraka jumped, really shocked. Izumi sat there not knowing where she is currently, but her brain processing things at a snail's pace. With her brain going haywire, with pounding heart and swelling eyes, she examined the white room which she was faintly remembering. But though, that's not all of it. All the students sitting around startled, looks at her way, deeply caring for her well-being. Almost all of them has a worries expression, and she felt bad seeing that. Soon enough, it clicked. Her whereabouts and situations. The waiting room. They're gathered in Class 1, a waiting room. Today is the sports festival, and unlike morning, when she got here, she felt more alive. She did not sleep yesterday a tiny bit though, and she must have fell asleep during their stay here. Suddenly self-awareness kicked in. Was she loud? Did she scream? If did, it may have affected their concentration and preparation. Finally, she noticed Uraraka is holding Izumi with both her hands and was saying something. As well as Todoroki stood beside Uraraka, face void of emotions. WHW. Izumi stuttered, then breathed in few times and nodded at herself. Oh, I'm sorry for all this. I. Izumi's voice broke, not knowing what to say. She can't say her fight with herself in her deepest nightmares or looking for her deceased little brother. And in reality, nobody except Bakugo and other girls are unaware of her having a brother and he passed away. At least she thought that way. Hey, Ami, focus on your breathing, okay? Don't worry, you're alright. Uraraka words finally synced in Izumi's head and she was breathing again, normally this time. She had no idea. Her breathing stuck in her throat. Don't worry, but to answer your question, you were whimpering and mumbling. Was that a nightmare? Uraraka spoke slowly enough to both of them could hear. Oh, that's only thing Izumi could say. After all, her thought process was limited at that very moment. Izumi, she heard Todoroki's blunt voice, demanding her attention. She sweat dropped seeing his gaze and emotionless posture. Yes, Todoroki, I'm sorry if I bothered in any way, in advance. She sounded really sorry and he didn't budge though. No, you're bothering me since the start. To believe in my power and utilize it more, I spotted that, you're someone who's on the way. With that strong but exhausting quirk you possess, I saw you end up doing everything better than others. To improve my momentum and strength, consider this conversation as a challenge. I'm hoping to face you soon enough, he said, like talking about weather, and stared her down. Sensing the tension between the two, Kirishima out of blue appears next to them. Hey bro, why don't we calm down a bit? He chuckled awkwardly. And calm, Todoroki stated, not looking at Kirishima. Izumi thought of what he said and noticed something. Standing up, she faced Todoroki. I respect your decision, Todoroki, but I'm a dream chaser like you too. Just don't think you won't see me topping the festival. I'll give my everything like them. And you should too, Izumi replied, pointing at his left side. I want to see your other quirk too, and I'll show you mine, she added, and Todoroki visibly tensed up. My ice quirk is strong enough. Besides, I hate my left side. It's not my quirk either, he said. To prove yourself, one has to give their all. We're doing that here, and you should do the same, or else you won't make it to the end. Like myself, you two should rely on both of your quirks, she said. Izumi then saw Katsuki's eyes on her. With one glare at his way made the blonde look away. Uraraka was first to notice that. In fact, she's the only one noticed. A burning curiosity bubbled in her, to know why there's always a tension between the angry Pomeranian and the unpredictable bitch. Unpredictable as in, you'll never know what Izumi gonna do next. Like now, she was all apologizing bubbles and then all of a sudden accepting Todoroki's challenge and have the audacity to judge his quirks. Uraraka took a mental note though, to ask a question. Todoroki looks down at his left hand. When Izumi told him that's his own quirk, I don't care why you refuse to use that side, but remember what I said. I do have a dream to catch up with, too, Izumi stated straightforward and sat down beside Uraraka. They watched Todoroki walk away, seemingly deep in thought. Uraraka sighed and looks at Izumi. You know, I'm a bit curious, though. It sounds selfish of me, but I hope you won't mind enlighten me. Uraraka started, only they could hear, startling Izumi slightly. Go on then. What's you stored in that gravity head? Izumi asked teasingly, which earned a small pout on Yura's face. Uraraka shrugged, fiddling with her fingertips. I mean, to you, this question may be personal. And don't feel like being rude, Uraraka says, getting a bit nervous. Izumi's ears perks up. Personal, for me? Izumi wondered. Yeah, I mean probably, yes. Uraraka more like questions. Izumi did try the guessing game. Almost everything she has is personal, but there's a few only Yura is aware of. And that few got answered back then though. The truth behind Izuku's death. Yes, Izumi told them he was killed in car accident and nothing more. Little of her guesses lead her that direction. Recently, Uraraka and other girls wanted to know more about Izuku and her. Mostly some funny or normal incidents. Okay, I gave up guessing. Come on, ask me already. Izumi's own set of curiosity made her speak. Uraraka looks at Izumi and then Bakugo, who was grumpy as usual. Izumi followed Uraraka's gaze. And behold, sure it's about that dickhead, Katsuki Bakugo. And may or may not if she knew the damn question. Was she ready to answer? Yes? No? What's theirs to answer anyway? That he's a low-class bully. Bullies kids because he feels like it, and once he told Izuku to kill himself. Well, isn't that too obvious, though? You know, I mean why you and Bakugo don't get along. I mean, it's clear you two has history together and he knew your little brother. But can I ask you why you hate him? And why Bakugo is acting strange around you? The question is Izumi predicted. And her best friend seeks the answer to that. Little did Yura knew, Izumi didn't know what to say. Hey, it's okay if you can't talk about it. I understand, Yura added, seeing Izumi's tensed posture. Izumi nodded and smiled at Uraraka. I don't know how to answer that. You know, that nightmare I had somewhat changed my mind, I think. How about we talk this sometime later? You know, when I'm ready a bit, Izumi said apologetically. Uraraka is her first and best friend after Izuku. At least she deserves to know what's going on with Izumi's complicated life. Story of a big sister who was a bitch and a sweet cutie pie and a numbskull at same time. Thanks, I'll wait. Uraraka chirps with a thumbs up. Seeing Uraraka grin reminded Izumi of something. A mischievous smirk appears on her lips as she looks at Uraraka knowingly. The tables flipped all of a sudden and Uraraka saw the change of expressions. Why is she looks like Cheshire Cat? All of a sudden, say, Uraraka, Izumi started, her evil smirk still there. Uraraka gulped, sweating slightly. Something was up, she knew it. How's your new boyfriend? Izumi asked a bit louder, attracting other attention. In a second, all the girls surrounds the poor gravity girl. Mina scoots behind Uraraka and hugs her close, blocking her escape. Then was a silence. Uraraka froze on spot looking at Izumi. Then like a thermometer, her face heat up. Covering her face, she squealed shyly. Mina peels her hands off of her face and held behind her, carefully not to hurt Ura. Who's he? Yesterday, you escaped, but not today. Mina playfully purred. You guys got all wrong. He's not my crush. Ura whined. Izumi's smirk widened. So you agree seeing a hot dude, huh? She says, and again was a silence, and the girls grinned widely as Uraraka's face turned even more redder. No. Uraraka cut off, realizing she got busted. Come on, we won't let you slip this time. Jiru said, and Momo agreed. Is he a hottie? Toru asks. How is he? Is he a charmer? You got his phone number? With all sorts of questions, Izumi added one more. What's his name? Uraraka was a puffy tomato at this point. You guys are a bunch of meanies. She pouted, defeated. So, come on, talk. Mina urges her. Sighing, she got no choice nows, does she? Some time ago, it was her curiosity drove her into this mess. Izuku did countered on the weak spot. Uraraka still, though, kept her tongue to herself. She so badly wanna talk to them, but her timid and shy nature doesn't letting her. She though about something else though. Is Deku a boy she having a crush on? A hot boy like him would even mind an easygoing normal girl. Wait, did she called him hot? Due to her face was tomato by now, there's no room for extra redness. Hey, as in self-defense, the boy was so damn hot. Thinking about it, she did notice a newly built-up desire in her heart. She doesn't have a clue why her body heat up when she thinks about the boy, even if they aren't that familiar with one another. Uraraka heart and body refuses to shrug away the thoughts of the owner of those majestic emerald eyes and godly features. Self-awareness did kick in her. Compared to his beauty, she did not stand a chance. At least she thought that way. Well, Uraraka got cut off, much to her happiness, as they heard present mic announcement. Welcome to the U. A sports festival, my listeners. I present Mike accompanied by Eraserhead, are the host of this event, to spice up things more. By the time others got distracted, Uraraka slips out of Mina's bear hug and escaped out of their way. For now she's safe, unless Mina or Toru tackle her at one point and tickle her all over, demanding answers. Heroes that day was in the form of tight security, guarding UA school compound all around. They job, obviously repel any threats, which also includes Green Flame. The Vigilante, after all, is dangerous, but still people are here, confident enough that the heroes and All Might is capable of protecting. But little did they knew, when a green fire circle got formed some moments ago. They didn't knew, Izuku wearing his civilian outfit, came out of the circle. They didn't knew, the heroes could not prevent him from getting here. They didn't knew, the infamous Green Flame is here, in top of the arena, looking down at the toothpick-sized figure, or simply say people walking around in swarm. Wearing his black normal hoodie and gray jeans and red shoes, Izuku stared down at them and the heroes. The said heroes, well, most of them doing their duty, while the other few enjoying the day, forgetting their purposes. Izuku remains calm, sensing they don't have a stained soul, but in near future he'll cleanse them with the power of the sacred hellfire. But today, he's here to watch the sports festival. But unlike the heroes, he'll do his job if the innocents are in pain. And he also is here to watch 3 important people of his life. Well, his past life except for a brown-haired girl. He's here for his sister Izumi, childhood friend Bakugo, and his newest crush Ochako Uraraka. Izuku chuckled at the thought of Uraraka. He's really fell for her, it seems. Thinking about her always calms his nerves. And Bakugo, well, Izuku didn't mind supporting his former bully and childhood best friend. Bakugo is a complicated turn of his life. The blonde do cares but hates as well. A typical Katsuki, Izuku can sense the guilt and sadness hidden beneath Kaken's grumpy demeanor. Kaken, huh. Izuku remembered that nickname he used to call Katsuki. And last but not least, Izumi Midoriya, his big sister. She did change a lot though. Her soul is now determined more than ever, and he was happy about it. And there is one more strange presence along with Izumi and Uraraka, Todoroki Shoto. But Izuku knows, the boy behavior will change soon. After all, Endeavor is on his hit list. The number 2 did his job done, but the man was full of darkness, full of arrogance and hatred. Hatred towards All Might. Something that made Enji Todoroki a misguided father and hero. He will have to clean up the fire trash can too. Once cleaned up, Endeavor would be someone who's worth admiring. Welcome to the U. A sports festival, my listeners. I present Mike accompanied by Eraserhead, are the host of this event, to spice up things more. Izuku heard the announcement and smiles. The show is about to begin. Welcome to the U. A sports festival, my listeners. I present Mike accompanied by a racerhead, are the host of this event, to spice up things more. The announcement echoes the round arena, followed by the cheers and applause of appreciation and excitement. One in year, event did fire up the mood entirely, and present Mike one of those who gone crazy doing work, alongside a non-well-paid mummified Aizawa, not loving the idea of being here in the first place. The criticism still stands though. Many heroes gathered here as spectators, half of them are gossip freaks, complain always even if whatever anyone does. For them, these are time passes anyways. But still they are here looking grumpy or arrogant as ever, doing comments to rile up others. Mostly it did work. These types of heroes was those who never got their desired spots in the hero rankings, and they're still stuck in those 3 or 4 digit numbers. With thousands of excited roars, nobody heard one agonized scream, which obviously did not catch anyone's attention. The pain cry lingered though, kept at the verge of passing out or death. However, neither of the darkness consumed the wailing hero. He was held upright, more forcibly that is. In fact, his body got lifted a bit in the air while the iron grip on his neck pinned him against the white walls of the top hallway. Nobody saw this happening though. Izuku Hood was covering his identity as he held the man on the spot while staring at his stained soul. Attempted robbery, harassment, the two of the many misdeeds done by the man. Either cleanse his soul or collect his soul. 2 options, and Izuku chose the first one. Cleanse him. Not like he did with other few heroes who did not committed big crimes. No, Izuku cleanses his soul with making the man experience the pain and suffering of others he messed with and drive the man to a point that he'll fear of even thinking of doing sin. That's how Izuku did his work. With the man agonized screams, the trick was working. How? Because the hero already begging for forgiveness and mercy, crying that he'll never do anything ever again. I wish the things go way smoother, don't you think? But you had to forget your work, Izuku said harshly, shoving the man away. The soul cleaning done. The hero, however, had to endure the pain a lot more than a not Izuku concern, though. The hero little did get a relief, at least compared to what he felt in Izuku's hands, meaning the pain is still agonizingly unbearable. Izuku crouched down facing the man who fearfully and painfully watched him. I hope this sorts out my concerns towards you. You don't have to try changing what you do, but expect a fire bath while you're at it, Izuku said darkly, shaking the man to its core as another scream escapes his mouth. Choice is yours to make. Now I got business around. Bye. Izuku waved, standing up and walking away. After a bit of slow walk, Izuku eventually reached the top balcony. People who mostly wasn't as lucky enough to get seats, sans up here. Either way, the excitement of it did not falter an inch. Standing a bit far enough from others, Izuku let his hood drop as cool wind brushes past his fluffy white hair. His white hair represents ashes of the remains of suffering souls in pit of hell, a mark to the rider who conquered them all with the title of berserker or hunter. You name it, something that's a terrifying force. The rider matches up with the description. Izuku took a long breath as pyro booming as the festival officially began. Now, welcome the little listeners who will possibly go beyond our expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, with a scream, let's welcome the future heroes. Ooh yeah, present Mike announced, and Izuku chuckled, amused by the way one is past pursuers talking style. No, more like screaming, minding his attention to what's going on the field. His enhanced eyes picked up every student who walked out of the waiting room. Majority of them was nervous though, and that all was mostly the hero course students, knowing they're getting more attention than any businesses, studies, or normal course. Over 100 students came out looking up at the crowd. Izuku was already impressed though. Even though his analysis mind dead long time ago, still he could sense their power. He did refuse to comparing them one another or to himself, knowing they can do good in their own ways. Among them, Izuku spotted many with sin soul, but the sins aren't unforgivable. They are just misguided by their former school. And thinking of that, Izuku should focus more on punishing bad tutors who basically plants the false and inappropriate seeds of darkness in the deepest part of these students' hearts. Izuku has the experience of studying under the surveillance of a bad teacher or teachers. Looking up at the sky, Izuku nodded, an indication to Kodachi's new mission. To hunt down the bad teachers along with the fake heroes. Kodachi knew who to kill and who to hurt. Izuku saw far between the clouds a green flash zooming away. Izuku loved Kodachi so much for being his side. He once saved the injured bird, which later turned the most loyal friend that never will leave him. Izumi was walking midst of Class 109. Her stored-up determination and will leaking out of her soul as her eyes adjusted to the sight and ears registered the voices. Over thousands of eyes watched them, and that's when it's live. Sure, her Bandrel persona had the experience, and no stage fright bothered her until now. Little did she or anyone else knew, people of this level of quantity will gather up and on top of cheering. The booing may be reactions they'll get if performance did not reach up to their expectations. Izumi was on wobbly feet just like many others. Her eyes were literally everywhere, and they eventually landed of Katsuki, who was 2 people distance away from in the front. Just like she expected, Katsuki didn't give a shit about the crowd. Izumi sighed a deep breath, however she didn't got much relief. Like there an odd feeling of something she never experienced before. Like her heartbeat was restless and a burning touch on her head. The feeling when you think you're being watched, but 10 times worse. The feeling was strange and nerve-wracking. Sure, there's almost thousands of people watching them, but she have a hunch that's not why it's happening to her. The feeling was intense, but yet did not her eyes catch anything suspicious as she looks up at the crowd. Well, who's she joking? It's like finding a needle in a haystack. While with Mina by behind, Izumi pick up Mina's silent squeals of excitement as they move towards the middle of the ground. Then again her senses was aware of that strange feeling again. Is someone using their quirk on her? What's other possibilities are? That it's all her mind playing tricks on her? Well, thinking of it, that one of good excuse too. But the fact or the source of the feeling yet to be uncovered. After all, she knows the feeling of being watched. They stood in a group, not bothering to line up well as they looks up at Midnight, who got hungry glares from everyone around, including females. Well, Nimari is one of those chicks that nobody can resist. Izumi's sweat dropped seeing how shamelessly Midnight walks up to the stage to address the event. As you know, as usual, we'll kick things off with the top student little speech. Katsuki Bakugo, the hero course student. Since you've got the first place on the entrance exam, I welcome you to stage, Midnight said in the microphone, toughening up his attitude. Bakugo climbed up the stairs as he clears his throat. I'm gonna win. Don't weigh me down with these extras, Katsuki stated, avoiding eye contact with Izumi at all the cost. Many disagreement and complaints thrown at his way, but he didn't mind that much. Izumi clenches her fists in anger. He dared to call her an extra. Again, she was furious but calmed herself down. Izumi concentrated more on Midnight, who spins a wheel. And the first challenge was the obstacle race. Cutting out any conversation, Izumi prepared for the race before looking around one final time, hoping to find anyone suspicious, but find none. Can things go any weird than that? First round of the festival is the obstacle race around UA. Let's see who makes it to round 2. Ooh yeah, Present Mike yells through microphone. Contestants, take your positions, he announced, and Izumi did along with the horde of students, and Yura was next to her. Good luck, Ami, she said. You too, Yura. And if I win, Izumi started looking at Uraraka, who looks at her. You won't run anymore like few minutes ago. Izumi finished with a smirk. Uraraka face heat up but nodded anyway. They gathered in front of the tunnel that leads to outside and was waiting for a go sign. Ready, set, go, Alwa. Present screams on the mic, and they barely even heard the pyro go off. Izuku focused on the big LED screen, curiously watching for the future heroes in action. He can sense his sister's uncomfortable demeanor, and he intensified the tension in her brain by searching her soul deeper. Like he predicted, she had little no confidence in herself this time. But truth to be told, he was only caring about other students who worked really hard to get a seat at the hero course but wasn't as successful. Izuku knew nobody was paying attention to the general and other courses that's no hero course. But looking at them, Izuku saw only true potential in them but gone waste. Ready, set, go, Alwa. Izuku heard Present Mike shout as the horde of students sprints forward. In the LED board, Izuku and other audience could see what's going on. Upon hearing the go sign, all students sprinted forward, and Izuku knew that the most of the students lacking behind did not know that they can use their quirks as well. But soon their confusion died down as Todoroki releases a powerful wave of ice as he took the lead, freezing over half of the students in an entrance, rendering their movements useless. Todoroki was running with a hatred deep in them. The hatred towards the number 2 hero, his father, Endeavor. Sure enough, the man in the matter is around here somewhere watching his son compete. Endeavor is one of those human beings that is really selfish and ignorant. No matter the situations, they always consider themselves higher than anything or anyone. Watching the obstacle race, Izuku saw the slacking of students gave up running, and those who are ahead simply keeps going. And the fight between them was raging before the final rounds. Izumi was behind the fighting duo that is Katsuki and Todoroki. Izuku, on the other hand, enjoyed watching the race. Sadly, most of the students with good quirks got left behind. Who to blame though? They do not know how to use their own strength. It took a while before he saw them crossing a minefield. Landmines exploded with the sounds that's audible even at the arena. All the while, Izuku saw Uraraka slowly keeping her afloat as she crosses the minefield, and Izumi did the same with her psychic, but her fire quirk did its job to throttle herself forward a bit faster than others on the ground. Eventually, Todoroki blacked Katsuki path with ice but missed Izumi. The wall slowed him down, and Izumi got first, and then Todoroki second, Katsuki third. But what did he expect? His senses are overriding with their emotions that's overwhelming their needs to the point it's possible they'll overcome all odds. But in the end, an individual has either one of 3, strength, intellect, and determination won't make it to the finish line. Sure, Izuku knew the two since childhood, and that's also why he did not doubt them. Well, if it comes to strength, that is. Deep searching their souls, Izuku figured out one more thing. Either Katsuki or Izumi was pointless until his death. They're trying to become a hero for him, not for themselves or not for anyone else. A guilt-driven decision. That's what this is all about. Izumi nervousness and losing confidence. Bakugo anger and misleading thoughts of superiority complex. They're experiencing these due to they want to be a hero he wanted to be himself. Sure, they at some point of their lives promised being best heroes, but those promises halfway through got abandoned. Izuku wanted to become a hero that prioritized other lives beforehand. After his passing, they must have put those dreams on their heads to become someone they barely are. That's the reason Izumi was uneasy. For her, she has to exceed expectations in front of them just for a hero that she's not. Whatever they're doing is following his own ideals that's supposed to be died with him. At this, his sister doing all things mimicking him. Is that bad? The answer is a yes. Izuku wasn't impressed by his sister, who was literally brainstorming with no reason. With the team she chose being Uraraka, Hatsume, and Takoyami. Uraraka and Mei helped them hover and speed up while Takoyami deflect any incoming student attacks with the shadow. She failed to retain her 1 million titled ribbon, but in the end, Takoyami managed to grab 1,000 titled ribbon and they earned a number 3 spot. First was Todoroki team, second Bakugo. The main reason Izuku did not quite impressed by either of them was their teammates did the most work. Without Takoyami quick thinking, things might have not worked. Oh yeah, 4 teams qualified to enter the final will be competing against one another in a one-on-one battle. Ladies and gentlemen, following the legendary finale, please sit back with your voices high. Present Mike was literally sticking to the window looking down at them. Aizawa eyes twitched and groaned in annoyance. Until the next round begins. Those who want to prepare can take a break, while those who want to compete in some friendly competitions, please register your names to midnight. Aizawa calmly announced. Izumi heard it and decided to take a break, as well as other classmates who made it to the finals. I can't believe we made it, Mina said. I know, right? I should call my mom. Ochako happily said. Izumi sighed. Kira, I'm sorry about earlier. You know, I thought I got this, but Izumi apologized. Others looked at her and saw guilt in her eyes. Hey, don't blame yourself, Ami. We did not did any better than you, right? Yura assured her. You guys did amazing. I was all lost with weird impression, Izumi said, sadly smiling. Bakugo was silent and others did their best to cheer Izumi up. While they walked to their locker rooms, they looked forward and saw someone coming from the opposite side towards them, wearing hoodie and all, face hidden under it. They got a vibe of pure intimidation as the figure walks towards them. The main thing attracted their attention is the fact that people aside from students and teachers rarely even use this path. In fact, this way is prohibited from others to pass by. But their voice never sound their concerns out loud. They did felt something is weird with this guy. They looks at the tall figure who slowly was getting closer to them. Ada cleared his throat and looks at the man. Hello, I am sorry for the late knock, but you're not permitted here, mister, Ada said, but they didn't hear anything from him. As the figure passed by them, he looks at them, sending shivers down their spine. Uraraka didn't see his eyes and she sadly did not figure him out. They halted, looking back as the figure looks back at them, and they heard him scoff. Why do I listen to someone who they're not themselves? His voice was heavy that made their spine jolt. They heard that voice before, but with all the tension they did not figure him out. Izuku said those words as while he's glaring at Izumi and then Bakugo, who felt their breath hitch. With his glare, Izumi felt that strange sensation of being watched again. While they're confused and looks at one another, Izuku left the scene. The final round was one-on-one battle that they were waiting for. Within next few minutes, the match card was on the LED board. It showed their opponents that they has to face in order to move on to the next round. Until the last one stands, the festival continues. It's matter of time when the winner stands tall at leaderboard. The 10 of them who won got listed and paired with random students. Katsuki red eyes intensely followed the name across him on LED boards. And then he slowly looks at the brown-haired girl who was frozen on the spot. It's Katsuki Bakugo facing Ochako Uraraka. Izumi was next to Uraraka and placed her hand on the short girl's shoulder. Hey, it's all right. I know you can do it, Izumi encourages, because Uraraka seems stressed and panicked all of a sudden. After all, Katsuki is a strong dude. Ochako must have that much of awareness. I know, it's just Uraraka started. She sighed, pulling out her phone. I was thinking of my parents. I told them I'll do my best. She added and smiled at Izumi. And you'll do it, right? Izumi asked, smiling back. Uraraka looks at Izumi and thought for a second and nodded. You know, I got this. I'll do it, she said, determined. Uraraka encourages her mind with words she knew that's hard to keep. Her parents taught her to never see others smaller than her abilities and strength. And on top of that, she's facing someone who's weirdly a hero type in his own way and stronger. This is challenge she'll take way more seriously than her well-being. She doesn't have motivation to do it, but she has to step out of her limitations, and she will. Today her limits won't stop her. She'll try. That's I wanted to hear, Izumi said, hugging Uraraka. Thanks, Ami. Hey, we're buddies. Who else I support? Izumi replied, giggling. So, what about you? Who's up against you? Uraraka wondered, turning her attention back to the lead board. Izumi sighed, already knowing who she up against. It's a guy of class 1 degrees Celsius, I think. Shinso Hitoshi. Truly, I don't recall I ever seeing him today. Izumi explains. Oh, if that's the case, you're at disadvantage. Uraraka says, looking at the picture of sleepy-looking boy picture above his name on the board. Yeah, I'm kind of lost there. I don't know anything on him. His quirk, I mean. Izumi says. I don't know what to say anything, but good luck out there. Uraraka wishes both of them luck. You too. Okay. Hey Ami, you don't mind if I attend this call, right? Uraraka asked, showing her phone. Of course not. Izumi last encouragement, drifted off with Uraraka lack of presence. The brunette was somehow calms her nerves if around. But when she distances their gap, the uneasy feeling currently haunting Izumi returns. Not like she's afraid of anything. Just her mentality on public interactions or public presence changed within a day. Izumi used to be confident, easygoing girl who never hesitate to speak what she wants to in front of everyone. But sadly, the said courageous side of her disappeared mysteriously. The main thing that extinguished her confidence all of a sudden is the new perspective of herself she desperately trying to portray in front of others. Be the greatest hero and become number one. That was her first view of being a hero before this whole UA admission and Izuku passing. But soon enough, without her knowing, Izuku ideology mixed up with her own dreams that lead her to this extent of her worrying what the spectators would think of her. Now her ideology is the torn-up version that merges both her and Izuku dreams together, pushing her out of her comfort zone and the understanding. Be the hero people think of first in their hearts and become the number one for them. Sadly though, she ever thought of reaching the spot of the number one all this time, and she was ready too. However, her guilt and overwhelming emotions made her follow Izuku's dream at some point and unknowingly creating a distance between what she doing and what she wanted to be. Izumi sat there staring blankly at nowhere in particular as she felt something white from corner of her eyes. Izumi. A male voice snapped her out of her trance, making her flinch slightly. Eyes widen, she looks up at the owner of the voice. Ajiro looked back at her apologetically. Oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. He apologized, bowing. Izumi shook off her frozen stature as she gave him a little smile. Don't apologize for it. By the way, what brings you to me? She wondered. He nodded and sighed. I saw who's you're up against the first round. And please hear me out on what I have to say, okay? He asked politely and waiting for her answer. Izumi frowned but motioned his to continue. Starting off, I don't remember anything that happened at the cavalry battle. I know it sounds nonsense, but that's the truth. He starts seeing her frown deepen and he looks at the lead board, eyeing the boy in the interest. I barely remember much of it. In midway I woke up from whatever I was in. I came here to warn you, Izumi. I remember I answering his question, and after that I only remember pure darkness. He added, You mean that she put the dots together? Yes, you guessed it. Do at any cost. Avoid verbal exchanges with him. Don't speak if he's around. That guy's a bit sneaky and there's a higher chance of him taking you off guard. He finished those lines for her. Izumi looks at him and then at the lead board and nods. Okay, I'll utilize your advice. Thank you for the info, she said, standing up and waving at the tail hero as he walks away. 2 more minutes, and Izumi took a deep breath. At least she knows what she has to do now. Keep her mouth shut. Walking through the hallway leads the balcony again. Izuku walks calmly with hands on either of his hoodie pockets. He thought of his interaction with his sister and her friends, which wasn't his plan. Sensing some fake heroes at the less populated part of the arena. He was doing his duty, and when he was returning he chose a different way to get to balcony again, and that's how they saw him. He do recall he saw self-doubt and little confidence and the overflow of the nervousness in their soul and eyes. And when he saw his sister close enough, he senses she was doing worse than he originally thought. However, he didn't do anything to ease up their spirits or help out his sister. Izuku doesn't see a point of calming his sister, because there's a still part of him that hates her for she did to him. And that part of his heart is the biggest part. Sure, he should be hating Katsuki more than Izumi, but there's another reason to it. Katsuki never was his blood. But Izumi was. Whatever others do to him, being blood-related, she could at least be nice to him. However, she hated him for no reason, and then all of a sudden she got more overprotective, or she was so mean to him. Before his last breath, she even hurt him physically. There's a lot of things proves that she deserves no forgiveness. Not for now. This time Izuku chose a free seat at the balcony, still away from anyone else. He was on time, because soon the present mic's screeching voice announced the main event of the festival. Ladies and gentlemen, now the waiting hours came to an end. Please welcome our first pair of fighters. Let's see who will the one advance towards the second round, he shouted. First walking to the battlegrounds, the beauty of Class 1A, Izumi Midoriya. And, with the ferocity of a mountain cat, Shinso Hitoshi of Class 1 degrees Celsius. Present, Mike said as 2 students with those names walks to the battlefield. Izuku chuckled hearing the fantastic introductions present Mike did. The ferocity of a mountain cat is mostly looking bored and sleepy. Then he got it right about Shinso. The purple-haired boy looked more like a ghost than a mountain cat. Jokes aside, Izuku watches his sister and sensed her mindset. She's unusually panicking today. Her nervousness was also evident on her face as the cameras did a close-ups on both of them. Izuku was right, she's not herself now. She's just a puppet that was controlled by his long-lost dreams she picked up along the way. Self-awareness hit me all of a sudden. I don't know why, but my concentration was full on the quantity of people gathered up, and I can literally feel their eyes on me. My body was sweating and shaking, an ache on the midst of my heart. I don't know what's going on with me, but I really want to know. I'm also thirsty. Really want a drink because my throat was scratchy and dry. Those butterflies in my stomach keep increasing in size. My breathing sound was audible to me. I then looks at the boy standing across me, with a bored look on his face. I wish I was that calm right now. Little did I almost miss the quail on beginning the match, due to I wasn't concentrating anything until now. What now? I know my breathing hitching and heartbeat quickening. However, before I got here, I've planned a simple strategy on the way. I looks up that boy who was saying something that I cannot hear. I can see his lips moving, and I can guess he's speaking full sentences, but still I cannot hear him. Truth to be told, I cannot hear anything at all. What happening? Looking around, my vision blurred a bit with black spots and sometimes blinding white light. Soon enough I felt like floating above the ground, but I'm sure my legs are safely on the concrete, not high above the sky. Those feeling wasn't strange enough. But the next thing happened with me was my legs wobbled even though I no longer feel my own weight for some reason. Wait, me breathing, it's like a stutter, inhaling and exhaling with a long lag. I don't know why when I looked around. All I saw was like watching a dream, but it was real. I don't know why there's no answering me of what's going on with me. After I don't how long. I did felt like I'm on my one knee now, and I had to look a bit up in order to make out the outlines of random things that I can't identify. Confusion creeps up my dizzy mind as I looked around, and I was met with a wide blue and dull eyes which was staring at me. Why though? What's happening with my lungs? They were tighter and heavy unlike usual. A warm something slid over my cheeks. With my unusually shaky hand I reached out to inspect what that warm thing on my cheek. As my fingertips brushed with it, even after my finger was numb, I knew the warm thing is wet. Tears? Am I crying? What's going on? Looking up at those blue-white eyes, I squinted my eyes to get a better look at the person. The figure, the boy, was just blurred to me and my ears ringed all of a sudden. I wanted to blink, but I don't know why I don't feel anything at all. I'm sure that I was breathing normally, but why I can't breathe anymore. I subconsciously raised both my hands up and clutches my throat and slowly scratched my warm skin. I can feel my lungs shrinking and heart wasn't beating like it used to be. I can literally hear my heartbeats and nothing else. I did expected to hear crowd, but they are now silent. Wait, crowd? I looked around once more and I saw something purplish-pink blocking my eyesight. I can't unsee the purplish-pink color anymore, and I little did pick up that. Those colors emitting out of my body. As if it's spreading. The color soon distanced itself to mine. Without knowing, an ear-splitting scream left my mouth like I'm in an intense pain. Honestly, I don't even know what hurts anything that's not my heart. Like it was being crushed. The pain was both numbing and agonizing at the same time. Is that why I'm screaming? I don't know what's what anymore. My head moved on their own as I stared up at the sky, which was so bright that I had to close my heavy eyelids. Then it was dark and my breathing was non-existent as I feel what's going on with my heart. I must have concentrated so much that I regretted it already as that numbness of it faded, exposing me to the pain that hidden behind it. Now I know why I screamed a little while ago. Because next thing I remember is I was on the ground rolling around and my nails left scratches on my skin as I scratched it out of pain. My heart was like being squeezed, as well as bunch of knife stabbing through the flesh. Even though my thinking got more faded, I still realized what's going on with me. But it's too late though. Even though I can't breathe incorrectly, I noticed a nice smell enter my nostrils that somehow comforted me and pushed me into darkness. The arena was dead silent as they saw the picture of Izumi Midoriya on the LED screen darkened and Shinso picture brightened with some letters written under it. It reads winner. Like what the hell? The match just ended before it even started. Audience and teachers stared at the scene dumbfounded as they watched Midnight helping Izumi to one of the stretchers the medical bots carry. What happened now wasn't what they expected to see. Izumi Midoriya was standing before President Mike gives the start signal. However, with few minutes she was silent and was looking paler, and then out of nowhere a purple dome-like thing rounded her and she started to scream in pain. In the end, Midnight has to step in both to stop the match and also knock out Izumi. Watching the scene unfolds before his eyes and sighed. Hey, before his death something similar to this happened to his twin sister. In front of him, just like now. But that time Izuku was panicking and crying because she was in pain. She's fooled to just let her emotions go uncontrolled. Izuku knew what's going on with her and has the perfect explanation for what happened to her. Izuku stood up and for the 5th time, he left the balcony and towards one place that's his new destination. Hands in pocket, he walked through the corridors of the arena and this time using a more public path than students-only ones. Can't risk running into someone he don't want to see. However, things always don't go that easily in life. He ran across a junction and first saw the broad shoulders of the flaming hero, Endeavor, who has his back to Izuku. I know at some point, you'll see the true capability of the powers you're gifted with, Shoto. You'll come to line. Endeavor voice boomed, and that's when Izuku realized that Shoto Todoroki, his son, was with him as well. You're wrong, old man. You got it wrong. Because I only consider my right side as myself. My left side is cursed to me. To stumble into your line, you must have to break me first. But I have my motives that won't let me stumble on my way. I'll use my ice and master my right side, and you better watch out. I'll be someone that you never in a million years can be. Shoto calm tone said with a slight hint of anger. I'll become someone who's not a monster, he added. Endeavor was staring down his own son, but before he could speak up, Shoto turned and walked away to his fight with Sira. Izuku stood there staring at Endeavor. It seems like the number 2 hero sensed his glare and turns around to look at Izuku. Endeavor could only see 2 intimidating glowing green eyes but remains calm. But deep down, Endeavor was really shocked, because he was around strong and powerful foes and allies before, but neither of them has the aura this stranger possesses. The strange part is that the guy is just standing there and his aura already different than even All Might. No, this stranger aura is something outworldly that he never seen before. That alone fact was enough to let Endeavor guess the power this stranger is stored in him. Endeavor, Izuku said the man name in a deathly low voice, even though Endeavor is one of his targets. This part of the arena is filled with life. Izuku doesn't want anyone interrupt his job, and also he doesn't want to make the officials cancel the sports festival midway, because they discovered the number 2 hero dead body. After hearing Izuku call him that, Endeavor's spine received the chills, which he never experienced before. A tiny droplet of sweat rolled down his temple as he looks at Izuku's green eyes. They are beautiful if you're a kind person, but a sinner could only see in those green orbs are their end, the finish line of their life. Izuku moved forward and faced the number 2 hero. I heard people are comparing you to the Vigilante, if I'm not wrong. I wonder if your Hellflame quirk is enough. But just so you know, I think you never saw the actual Hellflame even in your nightmares. And I also think you'll have a taste of the real Hellflame in the near future. That day is so near, Izuku said darkly and walked away, leaving Endeavor there, who was pretty shaken up. Within few minutes, Izuku got where he wants to be. The school infirmary. Not like he's there to see Izumi. He was just wandering around, and when he got there, he wasn't the only one there. The person was outside the door of the room anxiously waiting for something. Or he should be saying, someone. Izuku stood there and smiled seeing this brunette again. She looks good even in that PE uniform. Izuku thought and nodded at his own statement. Izuku didn't even realize when he started to being a pervert. But the funny thing is, Uraraka is the only one has that kind of effect on him. She's so told others that she wanted to become a hero because she wants money. But her intentions weren't bad at all. Help your parents struggling with financial issues with your hard-earned money, and you won't take single coin out of it until your parents are okay with it. That's how Uraraka thought of her dreams. Izuku moved closer to her and let his hood fall and cleared his throat. Uraraka stiffened and looks up at him with wide eyes, and he didn't miss her not-so-obvious red tint appeared on her cheek. Hey, Izuku waves and she gulped. Hey. She stutters and blushed again in embarrassment, afraid he'll have the wrong idea of her behavior and figure out her naughty little secrets. What's up? Are you all right? Why are you outside the infirmary? He asked, knowing why. Uraraka blinks twice with the question. Why is she there, standing and staring at nothing and looking lost? Oh, well you know, the Izumi Midoriya you saw at the field is my friend. I was told to wait outside so recovery girl aid her, Uraraka said in a gloomy voice. The sorrow in her voice was clear as day. But Izuku on the other hand knew there's more to it than it looks outside. Uraraka was sad, because Izumi unfortunately couldn't keep her promise. Izumi told her that she'll be on the top. Reality is, after all, is harsh, and that's why Uraraka learned the lesson, to not keep the expectations high. But Izumi was a capable individual who can conquer anything if wished, and considering that, Uraraka speculated there more than what she saw happen to Izumi. Izuku looks at her and smiled. That's so nice of you. This Izumi girl sure is lucky to have a kind friend like you. Izuku praised the already tomato-like girl who gained more red color as Deku compliments her. Hearing this handsome boy telling her such things as he looks at her adoringly was enough to make her heat up. She blushed even more as the heat increases down somewhere inappropriate place and was surprised as well to experience something that's so oddly foreign to her. Uraraka didn't want to be a creep who eyeing up beautiful man and have this uncontrollable emotions. So she looks down at the ground and nodded smiling. Like always, Izuku find it adorable. It's so strange though, that they only saw each other a couple of times and they both having this attraction beginning to build between them. I don't know how to think of that. I know you mean it. But to be honest, a true friend should know what's going on with the friend you care. But I don't know what happened to Izumi, and that's why I doubt my bond with her. Uraraka mumbles without thinking. But eventually she realized it. She did talk too much. But though, surprisingly she knew that it's not a bad thing. Psychic overload, Izuku said, seeing Uraraka self-doubts and insecurities. What? She blinked back confused. Psychic overload. Since this friend of yours wields the power of the mental quirk, in short psychic, the power gets tangled if the mentality of the wielder is disturbed. I'm sure Izumi was a little bit uncomfortable or nervous out there. Psychic overload is same as a regular anxiety attack. The difference is, the psychic overload will crush the wielder with their own mental struggles, and I know you heard her scream. Izumi's heart may have gone through the said process, and it always leaves the excruciating pain with the force of it thickens. Izuku explains, and he knows all that because Izumi gone through it countless times. Panic was written all over Uraraka's face. If midnight did not intertwine, Izumi may have died. Oh my god, she whispers. Izuku smiled and placed his palm on her trembling shoulder, and she stiffened for a sec. Don't worry, I'm sure the god has listening to you. I'm sure Izumi Midoriya Kennen will surpass this, Izuku said. Now, I'm sure you're being late for your match against Katsuki Bakugo. You should go now, Izuku reminded her. Uraraka shook her head and turns around to look at the infirmary door. But, she stutters, unsure if to leave Izumi's side. Hey, Izuku calls her, and she looks at those fiery green eyes. You have a promise to fulfill, he says, leaving her all shocked. How do I know? I think it's because I understand you. And whatever I understand about you, I love everything of it, Izuku says, and give her a teasing wink, leaving her little puddle on the garden. Her heart did somersault and looks at him as he leaves. 2 days later, after the entertaining events of the sports festival of UA, nobody was expecting the sickening horrors the following day. The public only had so much information on the green flame attacks. Even so, they were aware of the fact that mainly villains ever did fell into the death trap, and that pretty much it. Public, however, soon proven wrong when they witnessed a burnt melting corpse of a local hero nearby the bridge, which surprisingly not at all an isolated area. But still nobody see the onslaught, and when they did, informed officials within following hour. The media later arrived, and unfortunately for the police, a reporter questioned a rookie officer, who unknowingly confessed, this is clearly not the first time a hero body found. Shocked and enraged, public and reporters marched towards the police headquarters and demanded some believable explanation. News spread like wildfire, and the government had no way of hiding things anymore. Public panic was the only reason the truth never left the headquarters. But now a rookie did a rookie mistake, and the higher-ups had to present an explanation. Like always, police did not spill more than necessary, and also the officer who leaked the supposedly secretive information got fired the same evening. Within matter of minutes, the higher-ranking heroes forced to take a full-time patrol in order to pinpoint or possibly capture this monster who unfortunately wields the power of the destructive hellfire. Up until now, nobody except few heroes ever saw the Vigilante. But nobody ever figured out the extent or the limits of his quirk. Hell, nobody even knows the logic behind the fire quirk at all. Because, whenever they find another corpse of a villain, you can clearly see the melting body and the surrounding. However, the unexplainable thing is, nobody has a clue how or why the victims of the dead villains are totally fine. No fire wound, burn mark, nothing. It's like the fire did not affected them at all. Things are fastly getting out of hand. So many heroes are spending overtime on the lookouts, and the number 2 hero is the leading one. However, Endeavor refused to carry some loudmouths on his back and left on his own. He found various nice spots to hide and observe any movement from the target. But also, that's not his way of handling things. Endeavor is smart, strong, agile, durable, and a perfect hero in a unique way. The only thing differentiating him with others is his horrible behavior. His ego and the effort to be a copy of All Might turned him into a monster, at least in others' eyes. In his eyes, he's right, even though he's not. He don't realize what he's doing to his own family. Because he believes his decisions to be the best, and that same belief keeping his brain occupied as he searched for green flame. Endeavor, I've lost sight of you. Where are you headed to? Endeavor heard Mirko's angry voice. She probably the second leading hero of their group. While Endeavor gone, it's up to her to drag the local heroes with her around, separating, to cover more ground. Endeavor replies irritated. This is all a waste of time for him. You happily took the leadership back at meeting, and I expected more from you. Mirko hissed. I hate things weigh me down. He replied, oh yeah, fire trash can. People weigh you down. I now found why you never be the number 1. Mirko snapped and cut the call. Annoying, Endeavor grunts, taking a leap to another big building. He pretty much left a whole trail of melting footprints along the way, and he doesn't seem bothered by the slightest. Times like this, when leaving behind your tracks is the most stupidest mistake one could make. On top of that, Endeavor is not all loved by anyone, including villains. So there's a high chance of a villain coming after him. But still, Endeavor don't care. The notorious green flame is his main goal, and Endeavor never did fail to achieve his goals. But here things are different. Not everything works on your favor. Minutes had passed, no lead whatsoever. Endeavor grunts annoyed and stands on top of a big building overlooking the city. The useless hours he spent for green flame frustrating him more than anything. It's unlike of him invested in one individual, and it surprised him at first too, because All Might is the one person he ever paid attention to. Nobody ever interested him anyway other than All Might, and now a mysterious vigilante caught his eyes too. Probably the lingering mystery that interests him. Or it's all just a curiosity. Maybe after he catches this vigilante, his interest maybe will die down as well. Endeavor slowly ran his eyes all over the city down. Roads, narrow pathways between houses, alleyways, and even some old buildings. He eyes every single one of them in hopes of getting a glimpse of a green glow. Still, no sign of what he's looking for. Well, at least that's what he thought. Endeavor blew some air as he looks at the sky. With his right hand, he rubbed his face irritated. His unfocused eyes picked up random clouds. It's all in various shapes and sizes. One with huge imagination would see things that's not there. And even the number 2 hero has some imagination in his brain that keeps running as his fiery eyes make out the moving white cotton of sky. But later what happened is beyond imagination. Nor did he imagine it happening. Endeavor posture stiffened and eyes widened. He saw something between the clouds. It was quick and like blur it vanished. For a split second he saw something green flash by, and due to it flying higher than clouds, he did not saw what caused it. Whatever it was, Endeavor had this gut feeling that keeps saying it was following him around. Being followed, a feeling he always recognized. Up in the blue vast sky, a green glow never goes unnoticed. Not for an average human. And there's no doubt a number 2 hero who possessed the power that's almost immeasurable cannot see the strange glow. The glow seems like moving in breakneck speed, which is so fast for an aircraft, too bright and visible for a quirk user. At least a normal fire quirk user cannot produce that much of light and to stand out the most from thousands of feet high. If they're one to possess such abilities, are probably considered more advanced or rather stronger. Even Endeavor cannot stand out from that high. And the lingering feeling of being followed not helping at the moment any slightest. It's as if somebody keeping an eye on him. Sure, Endeavor cannot confirm his doubts. But over the years of his services, he no longer stranger to identify these types of feelings. If there's really his doubts come true, Endeavor knows that it must be someone or something beyond strong. Fascinating. A single thought crossed Endeavor as he stared up at the sky. Well, he didn't have stare at the clouds for so long. Because it happened again. The green glow has returned. The same green light which strangely caught his eyes. But there's an exception to it now. The vanishing green light no longer disappeared. It just lingering there, circling one spot centering him. The sight of it caused his eyes to twitch. Endeavor so badly want to fly up there and research what's going on there. The problem is even his egoism won't admit it. Endeavor cannot reach that high in a million years. His high speed of flying doesn't matter here. The truth is simple as that so-called number 2 cannot reach someone using their quirk illegally, and all he could do is think of thousands of useless ways to capture them. One of the few times he ever felt useless. His mind keep running and revising ideas. The lingering feeling of being followed is still there. And that thought brings him to another few questions. Who is this pursuer? What do they want? Are they even hostile? And last but not least, is he even looking at a right angle here? What if it's not him they pursuing? What if they're not what he think they are? Those are few the questions that yet to be answered. But all of a sudden, his mind processed what's going on. The glow is green up in the sky. A green he's possibly after all this time. A green glow they set an entire mission to track down, and finally, the origin of this green glow is no more foreign. It's familiar, and Endeavor knows who it belongs to. The one and only green flame. The notorious infamous vigilante. The bringer of the mass murders happening around. Now here is Endeavor, on a mission to capture the said vigilante, and on top it off, he found the said vigilante. But there's a complication. He can't get a hold of this vigilante even after being in front of his eyes. So close yet so far. Endeavor grits his teeth and veins started to pop up on his forehead as his fists clenched to a point where he could hear it crack. Endeavor is going through a mental conflict right now. You know the one you feel when you have something so close to achieve but an annoying obstacle that's immovable, blocking your way, preventing you from reaching the glory you crave. Endeavor, lost in thoughts, refused to contact any other inconvenience, such as the heroes assigned with him. This is one of those times where you aren't interested in sharing the victory. The circling glow lingered there for a few more seconds, but soon after Endeavor eyes look away, the glow halted on one spot. No, it didn't halt on one spot. In reality, the glow was descending the vast sky towards the ground level. Endeavor eyes widened in surprise as the glowing orb came down. Just as before, the speed it showing off was outstanding in many levels, and the heat of it seemingly mimicking the one that of a morning sun. Either way, Endeavor's shock short-lived as he realized his target getting much more closer to him. What else great opportunity he have? not wasting the said opportunity. Endeavor cracked a smirk on his face and he almost jumped up at the falling target. Keyword, almost. He stopped because he finally saw it. The green glow is not very big enough to fit the vigilante appearance. The thing emitting the light possibly just feet big, just half of a normal human being. The conclusion of this doubt finally cleared, and that is, it's not Vigilante he's looking at, it's just something else. The distance between them lessened quicker than a blink of an eye, but the incoming projectile speed and aura nowhere near promising a friendly touch but pure impact that could create a huge crater. That thought alone made Endeavor think or move faster out of the harm's way. Like a missile, the projectile crashed into the same place Endeavor stood a second ago. Endeavor flew up just as the dust kicked up and small portion of big chunk of debris got thrown everywhere and some even almost hit the number 2 in the process. Surprise was evident in Endeavor's structure as he landed few distance away from the crater. The crater itself was huge and deep. Dark smoky dust almost hid the attacker who presumably on the center of the big crater. The key word yet again, almost, because the green glow was so bright to be missed. But yet again the appearance of the attacker still remains hidden. But soon enough the smoke faded, slowly revealing the said attacker. This time, though, Endeavor's surprise could no longer be contained. His anger vanished, and the replacement of it was pure shock and amazement, topping it off with bit of confusion. His expectations wasn't even close to the true reality which is getting unfolded before his very eyes. The mysterious pursuer and attacker didn't turn out the way he thought few minutes ago. A humanoid illegal quirk user, who is 6 feet tall and muscular and scary. That's what he was expecting. Not a bird covered in green fire, which logically impossible to happen. He could see the black charred bones poking out of its blade like feathers and could see its eye socket is empty with fire raging inside. Overall, the creature resembles a thing came out of the darkest pits of hell. It flapped its blade wings to hover few feet above the crater. And the firebird already has its attention on the number 2 hero. "What are you?" Endeavor subconsciously asked. Obviously, there's no response. Within seconds of this mysterious encounter, Endeavor came up with a believable argument. This bird is a doing of some illusion quirk user or a shapeshifter. Either way, he's seen enough chaos already. The deaths of villains and random heroes don't matter anything to him, but the priceless value of the victory encourages him to stop this abomination once and for all. Endeavor soon regained his troubled posture. Appearing uncertain and troubled in front of your enemy leads to your own downfall. Endeavor learned it the hard way back in his rookie days. The firebird, however, mirrored his same still and calm look as it stared through his soul and seemingly refusing to back down. A deafening silence envelopes the surrounding environment, and their standoff intensified its tension. The slightest of hesitation behind his every motion added an unfamiliar weight on his shoulder was something he thought he lost it long ago. But seeing this unexplainable creature brings back the lost emotions and uncertainty. That one thought shows him that he's now confronted something stronger. Even All Might don't have this kind of effect on him, but a single bird covered in fire does. It is strange. I do wish to know who you. Endeavor got cut halfway through his line before the fire raven was onto him. Due to lack of distance between them than before, the fire raven did manage to crash into its target. Endeavor's surprise was priceless. He did not expect any of this. Being thrown around by a small bird really affecting his pride and egoistic mind. A small bird that appeared out of the blue. Turned out this fire thing somehow inherits overwhelming power to know down a giant man. This giant man here is Endeavor to top it all. In midair, Endeavor spinned and tried his best to land on his own 2 feet. When landed, he didn't stop before skidding and colliding with a building behind him, creating a big dent on it. Blinding agility, brute force of a strength, extremely heated up physical abilities. What is this creature? Endeavor questions himself. Never in his whole hero service he ever came across such an enemy before. There's obviously no answer but a slight sound of the blade wings flapping. Kodachi hovered on one spot, but Endeavor spotted a twitch on its body and saw through an upcoming strike. The exotic bird, just as expected, was on the move. Like a missile it charges again with its flames intensifying and left a path of black smoke as it flew up to him. Endeavor, however, don't fall for the same thing twice. Charging up his Hellflame quirk on both hands, Endeavor blocked the bird just as it crashed onto him. Endeavor got a strong hold on both of its wings and a smirk appeared on his face. The impact got nullified due to the spring-like motion Endeavor done with his hands, and the culprit of the mass murders is finally under the stronghold of the number 2 hero. I won't fall for that again. Endeavor roared and slammed the charred bird onto the already damaged ground floor and continued to slam it multiple times more. The force used on each slam was earth-shaking, and there's no doubt the bird is not going to make it out fine. While Endeavor is at it, there's a thought keep poking his brain. The bird is still struggling violently, and few times he almost lost his grip on its wings. The unexplainable thing is why or how is this creature got this strong? If you look from afar, all you see a grown giant man throwing around a mutated or deformed chicken, but if you are in Endeavor position, you'll get an idea that how lively and almost invisible the creature is. Sure, the powerful slam's affecting it, but it doesn't doing much. After the 5th slam, the heat on the Raven intensified and the fire quirk user himself felt its intensity. Until now he completely ignored the heat of its fire. Well, now tables have turned. Green fire suddenly envelopes both of its wings and the heat almost melted Endeavor gloved palm. Sadly though, he lost his grip, giving the bird a chance to get back into the air. Endeavor hissed a bit as he takes a look at his slight burnt hand. Black smoke rose out of the red burns as he observed the damage. Thank his quirk for being a fire type. The burns did not affect him much. Kodachi recovered sooner than expected and was on his side in a second. Endeavor saw through its attack and focused his quirk on his right hand and shot a massive amount of scorching hellfire on the floor between the two of them. The firewall obviously didn't slow the killer bird on its tracks and easily cut through it, but Endeavor had it right where he wanted, because the firewall was a simple distraction while he leaped up in the air just as the wall was created. Seeing Kodachi slow when it lost the sight of him, Endeavor came back down with a fire punch with his right hand. His left hand did the job of a booster, which continuously shoots fire to speed up the descent. The fire bird got caught off guard as Endeavor threw the devastating fire punch. Sadly, it hit the mark, right on its torso, sending the deformed creature back to the big crater. The hit was nowhere near gentle or painless. The punch was clearly aimed to kill or hurt the foe real bad. The results are clear and one could hear the boom it created from afar. Dust and piles of debris got kicked and the green glow lost its shine. Endeavor landed a few feet away and admired his handwork. With a smirk, he concluded the results on his own. "You have lost," he announced. Ego spills out of each words came out of his mouth and a victorious smile appeared on his lips. Soon the dust cleared, revealing the firebird whose fire now died down. Even though he no longer see green fire but black smoke, he saw its body twitching with life. "Is this really what you are? A strange bird? A quirk user? The infamous green flame causing trouble around the street? If you are, how or why nobody able to capture you? A pathetic piece of trash." Endeavor mocked his downed opponent. He halfway forgot the strength it has stored due to the overwhelming pride and self-respect. After all, he finally defeated the notorious and so-called dangerous Vigilante. Turns out it wasn't a Vigilante, just a bird with an unknown origin. "I thought you could give me a handful, but I think I pushed you too hard," Endeavor says as he climbed down the crater and picked up the black charred skeleton bird which still got black smoke all over. Endeavor picked it up using its black metal wing and was about to return to police headquarters with his accomplishment. All of a sudden, green flames erupted in Kodachi's eyes, attracting Endeavor attention. Staring straight at Endeavor, Kodachi opens its mouth and lets an ear-splitting screech which sends supersonic waves directly hitting the number 2 hero. The sound was so loud, Endeavor almost felt his ears bleed and his eardrum break. Second time during this strange fight between an overpowered human being and a creature alienated from this world. Endeavor was once again lost his hold on the creature. Kodachi couldn't fly up in time and fell down with Endeavor, who cupped both his ears because it was ringing and hurting. All he could hear is the ringing and nothing else. Endeavor had his one eye closed and the other was open, painfully looking at the struggling fire bird. Kodachi did its best to fly up, but the attempts turned out fruitless in the end. Endeavor power did quite a lot on Kodachi, and the hell-powered healing factor did nothing to lessen its damage. Without its master, Kodachi is almost vulnerable. Almost immortal but still killable. Endeavor breathing raised more as his senses are temporarily disabled. He cannot hear anything. He's pretty sure the wetness on his left palm is blood oozing out of his ear. Endeavor still gave the bird his all attention as he watched it stumble and flap its wings for almost a while. During that time period, his hearing abilities slowly restored and the ringing almost died down. What felt like forever, Endeavor finally rose up to his feet, staring down the healing fire bird. Kodachi managed onto its 2 legs, still having trouble to stay straight. "I must admit, you got me there," Endeavor said in annoyance. His voice was high because of his busted ears. "Super strength at first, speed of light, now the annoying screech of yours." Endeavor started and leaned down to get a better look of Kodachi. "And truth to be told, I was wondering, what are you?" Endeavor questions. As if his question is some sort of trigger, something happened. The struggling bird all of a sudden halted any sort of movements and stills. Then, SSSSSSWWOOSSHHH. A sound echoes as if metal chains are swinging, and the bright green light comes with it was as blinding as the sound is deafening. Either way, Endeavor training and experience let him overcome both of the said uncomfortable feelings, almost to a limit. Still, he pretty much struggled to focus. He saw the source of the sound, which was a hole made out of black charred metal chains and green flames enveloping it. Fire circle appeared few distance away from Kodachi, and the rubble melted under the heat of the fire circle, which exactly looks like a portal of some sort. Endeavor squinted his eyes to have a better look at the circle, and all he see is green fire and multiple fire chains and sparks flying around. What the? Endeavor grunts. Few seconds of staring at the fire hole. His eyes got adjusted to the intensified light. Atmosphere changes its temperature quickly and the fire quirk user felt the heat, which is surprising. Normally heat don't bother him much, but this time is the first exception. Cling, cling, cling. The metal clinging sound, which sounded more like footsteps, came out of the fire portal. Endeavor eyes looks closer to see something clearly, but to no avail. And there he saw a silhouette slowly becoming visible as they were getting closer to the portal. The person got out of the portal before it closes behind him, revealing Deku, who stood there looking down at Kodachi. This time though, his identity didn't kept behind his hood like usual and his real face is visible to Endeavor. Slowly Deku looks up at Endeavor directly in the eyes and the number 2 hero brain clicked with realization. Endeavor seen those green intimidating eyes before, and he clearly remember where did he see it. You, Endeavor started. You figured me out. I was hoping to see you soon, but never thought of it being this early, Deku said. He then crouched next to Kodachi and placed a palm on top of its head. Then the green flames healed the firebird, which elegantly took off into the air and then shifted back to its normal form before landing on Deku's shoulder. Endeavor watched it happen and he could barely hold back the look of shock appeared on his face. You're saying that you were looking for me? Why? To hand over yourself? Endeavor mocked. Izuku chuckled softly and shook his head. Haha, you know what I like about you the most, Endeavor? You always looking fearless even though you are unsure of your decisions. I have never seen you afraid, but your soul answers me, Deku replied, which earned a strange look from Endeavor. Endeavor then examined the individual standing in front of him. Sure, if the bird he thought was the culprit have a master, then the bird is not the one he's looking for. That means, so, the whole Tokyo was after you, the mysterious vigilante and the murderer of hundreds. Turns out you're just a child. How about we make this quick? Put up as little struggle as possible and I'll do the rest, Endeavor said. I'm afraid things go way different, Deku replied with chuckle. And, do you know something, Enji Todoroki? Deku started. Endeavor face dropped when Izuku called him by his real name. Do you know that? Your family asks the same question you asked my companion whenever you failed to become their world. They ask the same about you. The question, what are you? Deku finished speaking, leaving a speechless Endeavor. I thought heroes do exist so people could live in peace. But your family got the worst version of a hero in their household, I guess, Izuku said when Endeavor failed to reply. What are you getting at? Are you speaking with false assumptions? Endeavor questions, but sounded desperate. His personal secrets are no longer secrets. Endeavor is aware of what is the vigilante getting at, but refused to confess. Oh, I believe you know the truth. The suffering and grief you caused on your own bloodline for the past few decades. It doesn't matter you confess or not. I have my ways to deal with stuff, Deku said in dangerously low and threatening manner. Endeavor don't buy this anymore, so he took a more heroic approach. Beats me what you're saying. Whatever, just surrender Green Flame, or whatever your name is. I know media don't get every answers, so they create their own. And I know you don't go by the name Green Flame by yourself. If you do, then the name is stupid, Endeavor replies coldly. Deep in his heart he knows that he's hiding the truth, but what matters more is keep this fire quirk vigilante behind bars. See, I knew you were smarter. I guess you're right. Green Flame sounds lame. Izuku started. Spit it out. It may be helpful for me later when I make it to the front page of the newspapers, Endeavor says arrogantly and moved forward, threateningly close to Deku with his fire raging. Oh, with pleasure. I'm really happy to go by who I really am, Deku said with a unsettling wide grin. Endeavor left eye twitched, a sign of danger. His eyes then picked up the black smoke rising from the vigilante's shoulders. Even though Green Flame is self-explanatory name, I have a title of the rider. Izuku continues as the black smoke grew in quantity and his eyes turned bright green and his voice grew heavy to a point where it sounds like it belongs to a demon. The Ghost Rider. And I see the sins your soul is stained with. Let me see. Deku's sentence got cut short when something heavy came and connects with his side. Kodachi just in time flew up as its master got kicked off of his feet. Endeavor looks at the source of the distraction and growled at the one person he didn't want to deal with right now. What are you doing here, Mirko? Endeavor grunts. You want me to answer your questions? Too bad I despise you, Mirko says and stood there facing Deku, who is now slowly getting on his feet. I see you found someone here, huh, Mr. Flaming Trash Can? You did things well for the first time, huh? Mirko says, earning a hard stare from Endeavor, but she ignored him. Mirko looked closely at Deku, who is now standing there staring at Endeavor and her. She saw his glowing green eyes and black smoke coming out his body. I heard you two talking. Endeavor wasn't lying. You're just a kid villain. Sukachi probably has a ton to ask Yaom. Ghost Rider. Isn't that name a bit too creepy? Mirko comments as she analyzed Deku, who chuckled in his current deep voice. His voice sent shivers down their spine, which was so odd. It's so rare that a villain has this kind of effect on them. You're calling me a villain, Hero Mirko? Then what you call your friend over there? What you call this hero community? I'm sure you got the perspective of this world upside down, Deku said in his deep voice. He's in middle of both his normal and hell formation personalities that he says things wisely and calculated with a terrifying grin. They only see a monster ready to pounce but pretended he has no effect on them. Say what you want when you're in jail, Ryder. I advise you to stay put and don't think of any funny ideas. Mirko commands, taking a fighting position, just in case. I see no stained soul in you, Deku said, pointing at Mirko, who raised a brow in confusion. RUMIUSAGIYA. He finished, taking her off guard. She startled like never before. A highly classified or personal information, which she never revealed it to anyone, even her fellow hero team members. That doesn't explain why a psychopathic murdering vigilante is aware of it. That gives you enough reasons to stay out of the way, Deku said in a low voice. I prefer the same. Nobody wants you here, number 6th hero. He and I have personal businesses, Endeavor says. I don't care what you two have, but I won't let him slip out again, Mirko stated confidently. I've seen enough bloodshed, she added. Deku then laughed, not smile nor chuckled. He laughed like a madman. His voice added the extra terrifying factor which possessed the ability to creep out anyone. Oh, trust me, when I'm done here, your wish will come true. Just as he said that, both heroes could feel the ground shake. They instantly figured out something is wrong. They leaps out of the way just as dozens of fire chains erupts out of the ground and attempted to grab them. Thankfully they managed to escape. What the hell? What's going on? Mirko shouted as she landed and stared at the snake-like spiky fire chains. The next second, they vanished back to the ground. Endeavor confusion and amazement was evident on his face. He didn't see it coming. His quirk. What is it? He thought. Mirko looks at Deku inside. Screw it, she cursed and took off straight at the vigilante. On the way, multiple fire chains came out of the ground and she dodges it left and right. She faced hard time to evade the chains. However, one thing was strange. None of the fire chains produced any heat even though they looks like they are melting. She cleared her way through the fire chains forest until she has view of Deku. She used both her legs to power up jump and flew up and came down with a punch ready to hit him. Deku rolled out of the way. Her both legs radiated a massive shockwave, creating a crater upon contact on the already destroyed floor. Deku took his eyes off of Endeavor only for a second, and before he knew it, Endeavor was on his side so fast. Izuku ducks just in time to miss a raging fist, but Endeavor used his knee to hurt Deku's chest. Endeavor knee connects painfully against Deku's chest, sending him across the battlefield. Seeing his master in pain, Kodachi tried to transform, but couldn't. Deku stops its transformation via mind link. Stay down. I don't want to cause you any permanent mark, Mirko says. This time though, Deku was as silent as a calm sea, hiding danger in its calmness. He looks at them with his green glowing eyes and stood up from the place where he fell. I wish you two were understanding, Deku says. The next thing they know is something wrapped around them, mainly Mirko. Fire chains wrapped around her like thousands of snakes, and thankfully the hellfire didn't burn her. Only one chain came in contact with Endeavor, which wrapped around his left hand. But the chain wrapped around him melted both his clothes and skin and flesh, unlike Mirko. Endeavor tried to hold back his screams but was successful halfway. Mirko saw this, which added more fuel into her confusion. You won't win, Endeavor. Sinners must punished, Deku said, gaining both their attention. The crimes you've done don't deserve any forgiveness. You will feel the pain of your family, your victims. With that being said, the fire in his eyes intensified and the black smoke rose off of his body, increased by the passing second. Then his face cracked and charred, which peeled away his blackening skin, revealing green flame, black smoke, and burnt skeleton in it. Now they saw no boy with power. They saw no vigilante with psychotic grin. They only saw a monster out of a nightmare who make you scream because you're petrified of it. They saw it standing there and seemingly staring at them with its hollow fiery eyes. There stood the rider, the ghost rider, declaring the number 2 hero fate. Both hero had their eyes bulging when they saw this new abomination. The fire skeleton wearing burning leather outfit and its surroundings lightening up and melting under his fire heat. Kodachi turned into its hell form with its master and sat on the rider right shoulder. They finally started to wonder if they even witnessing a grim reaper. The rider took a metal clinging step followed by another, and another, then another, until he's directly in front of Endeavor. Rider tilted his head sideways and stared deeply into Endeavor's soul. Endeavor don't know what to do when this fire skeleton is in front of him, but containing what left of his courage, he mustered enough confidence and aimed a punch directly at Rider's skull. Midair, Endeavor fist was caught like it's nothing. Endeavor fist is in an iron grip that is impossible to free out. Endeavor even used a fire barrier to push the rider away, but the green flames sucked the orange flames in and nullified Endeavor quirk. Mirko don't know what's going on right now. She's literally watching a skeleton walking around covered in fire who possessed the power to take heavy hits. The logic behind it got thrown out of the window. There's no logic to begin with anyway. Rider then finally looks into Endeavor's eyes, and then the pain followed. The Endeavor, who is as rough as a cold stone, finally started to scream at the top of his lungs in pure agony. His stained soul hurting him the same way he hurt others. He hurt his family, so it hurts him double. Flashbacks and memories of what happened with his family and his victims flashed before his very eyes, and he is now feeling every single pain he inflicted on others. Endeavor fiery eyes turns back to normal, and the fire covering his face and suit disappeared. Ghost Rider destroyed one thing that lead Endeavor through the path of arrogance, and that is his quirk. Finally, the punishment was over. Endeavor unconscious body then fell and was dangling on the fire chain. After what he did to Endeavor, he turns back normal and a fire chain portal appeared behind him. I hope that helped you any better, Deku said and walked back into the portal. The chains holding the heroes on the place vanished as Deku vanished into the portal, leaving a completely fine Mirko with her now wounded enemy. The following incident caused fatal injuries to the current number 2 hero Endeavor. Number 6 hero Mirko, however, did not sustain any injuries and will be in remission shortly. The Vigilante, who originally named Ghost Rider, continues the killing spree, which seems unstoppable at this point. The last hope we have is you, All Might. May no more bloodshed happen at your watch. With that, TV was turned off by Momo. She held the black object close to her chest and looks down at Todoroki, who was frozen on the spot of the couch he's seated. They were getting along just fine and decided to take advantage of the Sunday by watching any movies. Turns out, they switched to the wrong channel at the wrong time. Todoroki, usual void of emotion faces, now has the expression of shock, confusion and fear. Fear of losing someone who he thought he hated the most. But somehow he can't hate the person anymore. The difference between Shoto and Enji is that Shoto still has a longing and young heart. It cannot handle any sudden shock. Ghost Rider, the notorious Green Flame, finally gone through his father and beat his old man so bad he is almost at a near deathbed. The students are all now as scared. The number 2 is defeated and almost died. What chance do we have? They all thought. Bakugo brain cannot reach to a decision. Whether or not he should be sacred or laugh it off, or whether or not he should stand up and accept this non-verbal challenge or cower back into his sheet. Todoroki moved finally. He rested his elbows on his knees and plants his face right into his palm. He's visibly as tensed. No friends of his don't know what to do. Izumi also don't know what to do. Soon enough, Mr. Aizawa enters the hall with Midnight, and by the looks of it, the heroes also is aware of the incident. Obviously, Aizawa looks at Todoroki with his usual dry look and sighed. Todoroki, come, your sister wants your company at the hospital, Aizawa announced, gaining everyone's attention. Oh, Mr. Aizawa, is it true? Is Endeavor? Mina question died down before she realized the situation. Not now, Ashido, Aizawa calmly says. Todoroki, without no words, stood up and followed Aizawa out of the dorms. The son of the famous number 2 hero never thought there is someone out there who could defeat Endeavor other than All Might and him. Now this Vigilante who popped out of nowhere, almost a short time ago, annihilating whoever crossed his path. This is cows. Nobody, even professionals, doesn't have a single clue. What's the motive behind this killing spree? Why murder villains and heroes evenly? The reason behind only could be answered if they get a hold of the newly identified Vigilante, the Ghost Rider, a name that sends shivers down everyone's spine, especially after what happened to Endeavor and Mirko. Young Shoto, Todoroki heard All Might calling him. Toshinori stood on the doorway to the exit in his buff form. Fighting with the Nomu made it hard for him to switch to his power form. He recently spit out so much blood, and that never happened before. Todoroki blankly stared at All Might. Young Shoto, may I have a talk with you? All Might asked hopefully. Sure, came Todoroki's cold answer. All Might took Todoroki in secluded area of the academy and looks down at the young man. I may sound stupid. If it does, forgive me. Are you feeling okay? I know it's a lot to take in. Shoto looks up at All Might and shook his head. I don't know. Am I supposed to feel fine? All Might sighed, knowing he did sound really stupid. Look, young Todoroki, I want to talk to you about something. I know it's hard to take in, but heroes do sacrifices. The responsibilities are much more bigger, and sometimes it's hard to fulfill your role in it. Your father knows that too. I want you to know that. All Might says carefully as he could. By the looks of it, it's really hard to miss the troubled eyes of Shoto, and All Might knows how it feels. You don't speak a word, All Might. My old man sees you as an opponent, and my all life, I was taught to hate you, to overcome what you built up. Whatever you say, it doesn't matter no more. And I'm not feeling anything at all. Shoto says, anything else you want me to know? Todoroki questions. All Might senses the uneasiness and shook his head and no. Nothing else. You may go now. All Might instructs, and Shoto left. Maybe whatever he'll see at the hospital may create a fear in him. If not, the strongest and cruel man to ever exist for him is his father. And seeing that strong father fallen is not something he ever expected to see. His sister sat next to the ICU, a solemn look on her, and by seeing that, Shoto theorized that it's really something to be worried about than he thought. Shoto walked slowly to the door, but his sister stopped him. You can't. Doctors won't let anybody in yet, she said sadly, earning a nod from her little brother. Fayumi looks up at him and patted the seat next to her, asking him to sit down next to her. Shoto took his time, but he did as she told him to. Fayumi is thinking she do owe him an apology. Shoto, it's something I need to talk to you about. It's kinda bugging me. Fayumi started. Shoto looks at her for a moment and nodded her to continue. It's about about father, she said, and the father word came out as a lagged breath. Knowing what's going on with her family and her so-called father, and how Shoto was treated, she sure as hell feels sick to call Endeavor her father. Her siblings gone through enough and she knows how much they're unforgiving when it comes to their father. What about it? Shoto calmly asks. I think I owe you an apology. To find out about him the way you did. I should have informed you myself. I'm sorry. Fayumi finished her line, but Todoroki shook his head. It's better this way. If you informed me before the news I saw, maybe I refused to visit. Something about this green flame or the ghost rider somehow attracted my attention. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe not. Either way, I hate to see you keep apologizing for what he's reasonable. Shoto confessed, which obviously didn't appreciated by Fayumi. But she understood why he said that. However, deep in her mind, she knows that Shoto do care, even if it's not involved by Ghost Rider. After all, they are the same blood. Have you visited mother? Fayumi asked. Not yet. Does she know? Came Shoto question. Her hospital room has one of those LED TV. I won't be surprised if she heard the news already. Fayumi replied. Then there was a silence between them. Fayumi wasn't doing much, but Shoto is lost in his thoughts. There's part of him telling him that now there's something to fight the Vigilante for. Not sure why, but he thinks that way. Maybe the urge to surpass his old man came with the ultimate plan of defeating the someone who almost killed Endeavor. Maybe defeating the infamous Ghost Rider will consider as surpassing Endeavor. Maybe even All Might. As far as he's aware, nobody ever saw the limits of this dangerous vigilante, and Shoto is happy to figure it out himself. Meanwhile, Kodachi happily sat facing its master, who happened to be deep in his thoughts. They are both on the top part of this ancient church, enjoying the cool wind rustling the vegetation around. Dark clouds happens to be a regular occurrence, but the dark vibe it gives, strangely, was soothing for Deku and his companion. They were chatting like a long-lost friend meeting once again. But Deku thought of something else. Do you ever wondered, how come we're still here, living our lives, as if we never died? Deku says to Kodachi, who seemingly understanding what he's saying and tilts its head. Wonders never cease to end, I guess. Funny thing is, before I got you, my mind always stayed blank. Maybe I never realized. How lonely was I until I'm not lonely anymore? Deku continued. Then something else poked his mind. A thought he had since the beatdown he gave to the heroes. Deku looks at Kodachi, who eagerly waiting for him to speak. Its master's voice always makes the ghost bird feel like home. Another thing though, what was that all about yesterday? He spoke with his thoughts rolling all around his brain. I felt like I'm a psychopath. I behaved somewhat different. Like, I almost ignored the cleanse his soul first part of the plan. That big fireman messed up my senses of holding back a punch. What do you think? Huh? It's always me who talks about random nothings. It's your turn, buddy, Deku said, playfully poking Kodachi. The raven bird loved that and its eyes glowed. A sign that its mind linking with Deku. Oh, you think so? I had my doubts. Theoretically, my nerves acted along with his sin soul and I basically just gone cold like Endeavor. Either way, I don't care as long as he ever revert back into what he was few hours ago. He better stay better, Deku said, and the last part of his sentences came out as a mumble. A habit he had before he died. And now it's back. Accepting what or who he is does that to you. Gives you free access to the lost memories and experiences. But being the Ghost Rider, Deku knows that he better stay dead for those who is familiar with him. He won't try to hide, but won't let them see him so easily. In fact, he doesn't care. Eliminating sinners is something he loves to do for the better tomorrow. That's why he's the true hero behind the built-up name of a mass murderer. He won't correct nobody. A true hero can withstand the harsh criticism. But there's still an exception. Deku doesn't feel like calling himself a hero. Ghost Rider is something that no words can't describe, and Deku knows that. He also knows that, even after all this killing the sinners and facing bunch of heroes, he's still a mystery to the outer world. Kodachi was chilling and was loving the moment. Its master do care and now petting it. Kodachi never eaten anything before it almost died. And miraculously, the death took it to this man in front of it. An angel who is a fire skeleton and terrifying. But instead of burning in the hellfire of its master, that same fire gave it a life that no animal ever got. It feels living luxury, with the hellfire enhancing its physical and mental abilities. The ability of thinking enhanced as well. That made it appreciate its master's kindness. They sat there, cherishing the moment. No crime happening so far. The news of the beatdown really kicked fear into some thugs, it seems. At least that's how it felt though. Then something happened. Deku could feel a pit in his gut. A feeling. Something so far. Something that's unclear but obvious. It's almost felt like a cry for help. Maybe it is. Kodachi's head froze on point, as it felt that same thing. It's far though, really far. Have they felt the same thing before? Yes, but never evident or obvious. This feeling sounded more like a heartbeat, which continues and was getting louder or intensifying. However though, it only lasted few seconds. Deku slowly stood up as the feeling died down. That was something weird. He felt that same thing before, when he first became the rider and saved that boy from those thugs. And that triggered the obvious explanation. Another child is in danger. Deku looks at the direction of the feeling and he cannot feel it again. It means someone died on his watch. A child, that is. Deku narrowed his eyes in frustration. Even though he's too late, maybe her soul will be in peace if he destroy what destroyed her. Maybe. But before he could think any further, the feeling of the child's cry came back, as if they never died. Deku felt the hope and relief, but then again, the feeling stopped, like she's dead again. What is this? Why is it happening? Is asked to himself. The feeling lived and died live forever. He never dealt with anything like this ever. But he won't sit here doing nothing. He looks at Kodachi and looks down at his motorcycle on the ground and looks at Kodachi again. Guess what? We're running out of time. How about we become one? Somebody really needs us, Deku said, and Kodachi understood what he meant. Let's go then, he said as both of them started to heat up and let out black smoke. Meanwhile at the dormitory, students all gathered up in the living room. Aizawa wanted them there. Shoto still haven't returned yet. Izumi sat there along with everyone, discussing random things. Ochako was visibly tensed because of things happening to the hero community. Dying villains and strangers wasn't enough. Now the iconic heroes are dying too. For what? Why is this happening? She wondered. What? Minta butted in. He, being a pervert, still managed to get his chances fruitful. But now he too is scared shitless of what's going on. Everyone looks at her, including Izumi. Ochako sighed. I mean, you know what? People are dying. Even heroes who saves those people. And we're heroes too, right? She says, and that lone line freaked out almost everyone, and Minta screams in terror. You saying that? We're gonna be next. We're gonna die too. Oh crap, no, I don't wanna die. He screams and hugs Tsui. As always, he earned a slap with her tongue. Everyone present there looks at each other and gulped. No, that's not what I meant, Ochako said. Then, Kaminari asks, I mean, as the future heroes, what's the best way we could stand a chance against this vigilante? Remember we tried to catch that scary-looking bird? Ochako asked to other girls. Boys at this point leaned more in to hear everything. The girls nodded. It was fast, Jiru said, and strong, Mina added. Like, we didn't stand a chance, Toru said, and the last hope of beating the infamous Ghost Rider got thrown out the window. We're heroes. No matter what is the consequences of standing up to face this villain, we'll stand our ground, Kirishima said in such a hype that others felt the positivity. Well, we should stop worrying. We have All Might. What could possibly go wrong, right? Minta said nervously. PFFT, I'm gonna say to you, you ignorant fool, that bird Nomu thing was inches away from ripping off All Might head. Remember who destroyed that strong-ass thing? That Ghost Rider guy. Now you think you should rely on All Might. Grow up. Bakugo screams and Izumi and others looks at him. Izumi didn't like his tone one bit, but she knows he's right. Well, sort of. Have faith, Katsuki. I'm sure All Might knows how to deal with this, but we won't stay quiet though. At least we could try, Izumi says. And you better keep quiet. I'm already dealing with enough headache, came Aizawa's voice, which silenced his students. They missed his presence since he was there for 2 minutes. Well, they are worried. Shoto didn't come back yet. The defeat of 2 higher-ranking heroes left a negative aura around the campus. Mr. Aizawa, almost everyone said as they saw him. I'm here, Aizawa started but couldn't finish it, because a rain of questions erupts in the room. Where's Shoto? How is Endeavor? Is Mirko out on work? Where's All Might? But the questions died down when Aizawa used his quirk to look more threatening, and it worked out fine. Stay quiet and listen, he ordered. They all agreed. Yes, sir, they said in unison. Aizawa looks at each of them and sighed. As are all aware, the dormitory system mainly focuses on the defensive side of the future hero work you all face, which is inevitable. Doing your studies in the boundaries of UA, without the worry of what's going on the other side of those walls. Aizawa started. Yes, sir, we're comfortable here. Not much, but still, Momo said. Well, that comfort zone needs to be cited for a while, Aizawa said, confusing everyone. What? Zero said. You mean, we no longer staying at the dorms? Izumi asked. Everyone waited for an answer and looks at one another. What I meant is something way more profitable. Principal Nezu thought of this plan carefully. A camp, Aizawa said. There was a silence, and before everyone could scream, Aizawa activated his quirk. Before you say anything, this is not a tour, but a training camp. You all go through intense training. Double the stuff you're all doing here at the gym. If you want to stand your ground against any threats, take this camp seriously. Class B will be there as well. We won't throw you at any danger, but train you enough to face it. Aizawa finished his words. That's all. With that being said, he left.